Hey guys, if you're a strength athlete, coach, trainer, or practitioner, the Swiss Symposium in Columbus, Ohio at the Easton Town Center, time's running out. It's October 21st, and we have a $200 discount running right now. As I said, seats are starting to fill. So head over to elitefts.com, register today. So I want to call out the limited edition apparel. The link is in the description. As I've spoken about before, the limited edition apparel is apparel that I basically come up with. So some of the designs suck, some of them not so much. It's a weird thing. The ones that I think are going to do really well usually don't. The ones that I think aren't going to do really well Either way, they're all limited runs, so it changes, every single month. But all limited edition items are tri-blend material with, the cut that everybody wants now that's a little bit tighter on their arms so they can show off how big their fucking arms are. The limited edition items directly support the podcast. So head over, pick up your shirt today. Could be a hoodie. Could be shorts. We got these ball hugger shorts right now, which I would never wear, but I was told they were super popular. But you know what? They were wrong because they're still sitting there and I probably should discount them right now. Anyhow, if you want to see the discount on the ball hugger shorts, head over to the limited edition apparel, link in the description box.
Today's episode is brought to you by elitefts.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, guys, we're taking a short break right now. What we decided to do was to post the first Table Talk podcast I did with Jim Wendler. This is a great podcast. It's one of the ones that had the most engagement and the most views on it. We're reposting because Jim and I hadn't talked for about a year and a half before this, so there was a lot of catching up with that. We talk a lot about standards and expectations, not just of the athletes that he's working with, but with our own kids and our own lives, and basically how everybody should have standards and expectations, values. So that's a big part of it. That's the first part of it. Then about midway through, we start getting into how he's implemented his 5-3-1 training program into the high school sector and how his wife has been able to take that and dial it back for the junior high sector and move forward with that. So this is definitely a podcast you're going to want to check out. So we'll see you when we get back.
Welcome to the Elite FTS Table Talk podcast with your host, Dave Tate.
Now we're rolling.
All right. Did you want to start with what we have here or go with one of the YouTube things?
I'd say with over there because there's not people tuned in just yet.
No, I mean the ones that you had posted.
Oh,
because you posted
Holy shit
Q&A thing
from on the YouTube community.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here.
Because I didn't even really look at these, man. I just kind of skimmed through here.
Did you watch Transformer?
Yes, I watched Transformer.
Not the Transformers.
Yeah, the Croc thing.
I did not watch it. Any good? All right, good times, Dave. I haven't watched it.
No,
yet.
The only reason I'm pausing with it is, we've known Croc for forever.
After this, we'll talk about abortion. Okay?
Yeah, we've known Croc for 15 years or something. And, I thought I knew everything about, and there really wasn't anything in there, I don't think, that you'll see that we didn't already know.
Yeah.
It's just the way that the story was told. And I don't mean to slam on actually I am slamming on the people that put the story together. They could have done a better job. It was not a good story. He's got a lot of story. Obviously.
Yeah.
He, she, whatever he wants to be called, she wants to be called for that time being. But it didn't have a very good flow to it. It was all over the place.
It was edited poorly. Yeah, I don't I feel like I already know Matt's story. I don't know if that's what I call, but I don't know. I felt like I was kind of like a voyeur. I don't want to. I mean, it's his life is his life. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm like, I kind of know his story. I'm happy for him. I don't need to be paraded around, so.
The one thing I didn't know is I knew he had he had a lot invested into it as far as financially.
Oh,
I had no idea how much that really was.
Should have asked him for a loan.
Where it's like, holy shit, dude. But as long as she's, I mean, that's the only weird thing with it is all I know. I don't know what pronoun to use because I do if he sends me or she sends me a text.
Yeah.
Because I know who it's coming from. Otherwise, I just say Croc.
Yeah. Well, I have a very simple rule. I don't trust anyone who tells me what words I can and cannot say.
Yeah.
So, what's that?
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's authoritarian and fucking asshole-ish, and you don't get to tell me. I don't care what word it is. Just like you don't tell me what I can and can't do with my business or my life. So it doesn't mean there's no maliciousness on my part. I've known Matt longer than I've known Janae. So he's Matt to me, and it's not like I disrespect it at all. I think he's an awesome dude and girl, whatever. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to fucking do, but
I think you were the first person out of all of us that he let know.
Yeah. Besides his training partners, it was a kick in the face a little bit. Because I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't like it is today where everyone's talking about this and that. So I don't know. I didn't really care. I was like, all right,
That's a crazy thing.
Can you fucking roll good?
Exactly. I mean,
I
it was.
care.
My dates get all fogged up because I'm old now, but it's the funny thing is it had to have been 6, 8 years, 10 years before that time, of him kind of letting everybody know, and his training partners already know him beforehand.
Yeah.
And then it kind of breaking loose. And for like a decade, we all don't give a fuck.
No. We already like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that's
all
fine.
right.
Have fun. See you later. We're going out to dinner here. You're going there. That's cool. We'll catch you in the morning for bench. It's, it was not a big deal. And then all of a sudden it was like this big fucking deal. And it was weird for us because we're like, why is this such a big deal? Should we have thought it was? It's just, it's kind of fucked up the way that kind of all played out. But I remember he came up to me at the Pro-Am and said something.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, and he's all concerned about
Yeah.
his sponsorship. I'm like, well, I mean, are you going to like whack it off? Or, I mean, what are you going to do? Well, at this point, I don't know. I'm like, well, then there's nothing to be concerned about because you're not going to be, entering a different division that you're not in and just do whatever makes you happy. And it was interesting because I would have thought that the backlash would have been worse then, but nobody gave a shit. But so I guess you know who your real friends are.
Yes. Yes.
So then who you can really count on from the early on. Not sure how we got on that from the first question, but that's coming out of the gate with a bang. But and he was all for it. I mean, when it broke, and it broke on, interesting enough, it broke on Outlaws, and
I don't remember
that powerlifting forum before there was really social media. And I was on vacation at the time, and I started getting text after text after text. I'm like, oh shit,
I'm on vacation, motherfucker.
Yeah. So I called Croc, and I'm like, dude, do you know what's going on right now? And we talked for a little bit. And I'm like, look, if you're cool with this, if your kids are cool with this, let it roll. Just be careful what the media is going to do. And he kind of had a plan. He wasn't ready for when it came out, but he knew it was going to eventually come out. And by that time, he'd been telling his kids since they were 8, 10 years old.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest concern when he used to speak to us, is he didn't want his kids pets and shit.
Yeah, at the school and stuff like that.
Yeah. And junior high and stuff like that. Now they're in high school and probably can whip everybody's ass, so they ain't going to say anything to them.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple here for Jim. There's a couple that are tied in with you coaching high school kids.
Okay.
Biggest lessons learned from the kids you coach that you've applied to your own lifting / life, and then just what have you learned about yourself?
Biggest lessons I learned from that.
that you've applied to your own lifting.
So, I mean, just biggest lessons you've learned.
Yeah, I think one of the things, Dave always talked about having the principles of his business, or what are they called, Dave? Values. Okay, and then, so, one of the things I had going for me early on was I had played football, I had lifted weights. But I think one of the things I try to continue now is, if you're going to put athletes through hard workouts and all this different stuff, I still think you need to do that yourself a little bit so you have some perspective on what they're feeling. And you can push when you're pushing yourself pretty hard, you can empathize with them a little bit. I think that's the biggest thing that I keep things in perspective for myself. The other thing I believe that is the art of patience, and understanding that this is not a quick fix. Being involved here for so long and going to seminars, for the most part, we dealt with people who knew what was going on, but most of the kids there don't. And so you have to execute some patience, and you have to understand this is a 4.5-year plan for most of these kids, and you have to take it as such. And I go back to something I remember Buddy Moore saying is, do you have any advice for any up-and-coming strength coaches? And he said, learn don't worry about the programming first, worry about teaching the people movements. And that's all I worry about. I don't worry about the load on the bar. I worry about the execution of the movement before we do anything. So, if anything, it's brought me back to when I first started training, and you realize all the advanced stuff that we did and all this different shit we did, it's really not applicable to anything. And that's just the way it goes. You just have to be better at being a good beginner coach. And, the other thing is from a broader perspective, and I think Dave can understand this, is I think for any man alive, you got to have some kind of purpose in your life. And, besides your family, I think you have to have a broader purpose, something of your work. And, how many years did I answer questions and do seminars and stuff? And you feel like you're doing good. And then you go to a high school and you see the whole community transform. And now I feel like I'm really making a bigger difference at a smaller level, but it's significant. So.
Did you expect to make that much of a difference that quick?
Well, I always tell people, and we've heard this a million times, especially with head coaches or quarterbacks or strength coaches, you get a lot more credit than you deserve when things go right, and you take a lot of shit when things go wrong, right? I mean, and at some point, if I always tell the kids, listen, I'm not out there getting concussions. I'm not there putting my body on the line. You guys do all the work. I'm just kind of pushing you in the right direction. But so I don't want to, and that head coach puts in so much time. The amount of work that a high school coach goes into, I had no idea. We know, like, Nick Saban's always at the office kind of bullshit. But, he's also getting paid money. It's a high-profile job. But, you're a high school coach no matter where you are in this country, with the exception of maybe some places in California and Texas and New Jersey and some places of Ohio. You really love your job. You're not getting paid enough for, per hour. So, but I had no idea, after one full off season, it just completely changed. Our team went from being not very good to absolute domination. And, it's funny how many times that Dave and I would go to these schools and stuff, and we'd see record boards and stuff like that. And we would kind of laugh because it's like, squatting 600-700 pounds. And now I realize it doesn't fucking matter what they lift as long as they get a little better, because I'm not getting, it's not like I'm Alabama or Ohio State where you get top level athletes and stuff. But even then, they're not top level lifters, Dave. They're top level defensive ends.
If that, at the high school level, they're not even that.
No, at the high school, I'm saying at Ohio State.
Oh, okay, yes.
So all I care about is the kids get a little bit better every day. We just try to get a little bit better. And, you watch the kids, and I guess mature is one way, but, and I think this has a lot to do with the head coaches. the kids want to do things right. It's not one of those, when you turn your back, the seniors are out fucking around. They're over there leading, getting on people and stuff. So the kids, just like when your kids, as a parent, they want discipline, they want direction, and these kids did too. And it's not like I have to stay on these kids at all, but that's the direct result of the head coach kicking ass, not me. I'm just part of the one small part, cog in the machine, though. So
I think there's a few avenues to kind of spin off on this that I'm kind of interested to bring to the listeners. And the first being, because I don't want to forget it, not being significant, but definitely being significant, is for years you were motivating and helping people break PRs on a micro or on a macro level, a digital level, the Elite FTS Q&A, millions of questions, if not more, than the articles and the seminars. And the thing with the digital world, more so now than back when we were doing it, you really didn't know what you were really doing unless we had a seminar.
No.
Then you had a seminar and people are like, man, that one thing that you wrote really helped me out. So you live in this kind of vacuum world where you think that you're helping people and you hope you're helping people, but you really don't know.
Well, you send a question off, it just goes off in the ether. Later.
So, you don't know.
I hope this works.
But it's being absorbed. So it's really hard for coaches or people in that sphere to self-actualize to a level that I believe could be considered purpose. Like
that's what I'm saying. I didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't have any day-to-day contact. That's the one thing with seminars that was tough is we would do the hands-on shit, and then that was it. But the hands-on stuff, it takes 8 weeks.
Yes.
Maybe even longer. I'm just making up a number. And it's great that, we fix someone's squat, but, come Monday, do they even remember that?
Yeah.
And, it takes, how many times do people yell sit back and knees out?
Oh,
how many times I yelled that in a training session?
So it's crazy.
And that's the one thing. Now, that's what I'm trying to get at is I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, now at a micro level you do, though, because you're seeing these kids day in and day out. When they walk in the gym, before they even walk 3 foot, what kind of mood they're in, if they're ready to be pushed, if they're not need to be pushed, if you got to pull them aside, see what's wrong. It's 80%. I've always said it's 80% nonverbal, but yet all the experts online believe it's 100% email digital.
Yep.
Which it's really not.
Well, you as a coach, that's probably the best way to put it is, with video or writing and stuff, it's, giving you suggestions, but everything that we do is based on their attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a general plan, and most of the times the general plan gets administered, but as soon as something goes wrong, everything kind of goes out the window. You can't do that digitally. Right? How many times he's like, when you feel good, work up. And everyone's like, I fucking feel good. I'm like, no, you don't, dude. No, you don't. I saw that set. That set sucked. That's where it comes in. And, the other thing is, I remember we would do seminars and people ask us about coaching. And I remember after like a year or two, we were sitting around talking. And you're like, what? Some of these coaches need to take some communications or public speaking stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, that's like the number one thing they need to work on is developing human relationships and communicating. So it had nothing to do with sets and reps and Prilipin's charts. It had to do with actual communication. Now, some people are better at that than others, but we see guys all the time stumbling over everything when they're coaching. And it was like a weird realization that the number one thing you need as a coach isn't what we thought it was. It wasn't super training. The
number one thing is to shut up and learn how to listen.
Yeah, you listen and observe and know how to communicate in a way that can reach the kids. So
now the other road that kind of spun off of this,
and you can't write a book on that, by the way.
No, we've tried. It's the target demographic for Elite FTS has always been people who put training as one of their top 4 priorities. Well, that's serious lifters, coaches, and people who earn a living from that. So a lot of our content has always been driven kind of towards coaches. But even with that being said, it still trickles down to beginner coaches, coaches who still don't understand, they still don't really listen, or they think that they know more than what they really know. Or, I mean, it's funny that the people that have been around the longest you speak to know the least, you know, and the ones fresh out of college, 5 years with a certification, know every fucking answer in the world. And I knew I was going to get off the fucking topic.
No.
I know where I wanted to go. When you were speaking about beginners, let's validate that a little bit, because your beginners, as you were speaking before we got on the mics here, was a little different than, even a little bit lower than what I expected.
Yeah.
So take a worst case. Well, we don't want the worst case. Take an average worst case. Segment.
We get a lot of, because of the success of the program, we have a lot of junior high kids coming in now. And occasionally you'll get, you know, we had one kid who came in and deadlifted 300 pounds, but that's the absolute craziness, you know. But we have kids, they just don't have the coordination and control to jump. Now, if you think about that, like if you, to use both your arms, you know, jump in a coordinated way, can't land on 2 feet and land what we call landing strong. So you're talking not, when people think beginner, we thought, you know, they squat 200 pounds. But and the reality is that, to me, is like, you're doing pretty good. These beginners, some of them can't hold an arch in their back, don't even know what it, you know, to do this. Like, you have to physically kind of put your, you know, hand in the back kind of thing. So my beginner, and I didn't realize this, is very much, and I'm sure every other coach goes through this in the high school level, is not what everyone else thinks is a beginner. And the hardest thing is, well, the good thing is you can only get better. And the hard thing is like, well, what do I do to get them better? And the thing is, you just keep pounding away the stupid shit that we've done for years. You know, you have them do body weight squats. You have them, you know, we have them push the prowler around. There's a, that's a, you know, I'm promoting the prowler, right?
That's something. That's a good thing. I'm cool with that.
But even like, I'll give you an example. We had a kid who couldn't hold his, you know, the back position on a trap bar deadlift with the high handles. And it took 6 weeks of twice a week. And all this, and so instead of doing all these weird supplemental exercises, I'm just like, dude, you're gonna learn and strengthen your back so this way, and all of a sudden it just clicked, and he's able to hold his back position. So now we can load the bar a little bit. But I don't. I guess this was the hardest thing for me to work with. Besides, you got 60 kids and there's one coach. That's when it starts getting hard, is when you got a kid down there squatting 400 pounds for reps, coming out of the hole like a madman, and then you got a kid who can't bodyweight squat, and you're trying to manage all this. It's very difficult. That's where the real art of coaching comes in. And people can talk about science all they want, Dave, but you have to, you know, we talk about communication and stuff like that. You have to know how to coach a room. Imagine 60 people in here, from Chuck Vogelpohl down to, I don't know, an untrained kid. And you're like, dude, manage all these workouts. Let's go. You got an hour.
Well, you quickly have to become a leader so you can create your own leaders underneath you.
Yes, that's the big thing, is what I learned is, and what I did when my first year I was there, I came in during the season. Okay. And at that time, I don't know how much I can go into this without being boring everyone. I did handle all the training for the entire team. However, with the varsity, it gets a little hairy because I didn't know what they did during the off season. So what you do in the in season is entirely dependent. What you do in the in season is entirely dependent on what you do in the off season. So if you do lunges and all that shit, you can, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I did was I took the JV. I still handled the varsity, but I just watched the volume and stuff like that. With the JV, I said, listen, we're going to train right through. By the time the off season comes around, you guys are going to be good to go. So we started very basic. I taught them how to, dumbbell squat and bodyweight squat, and we did push-ups. We did that for 6 weeks. So by the time the season was over, I had got them going 100% the way I wanted to, and I was able to let them go a little bit. And then I was able to bring the varsity in and show this is how we're going to train. So then now that everyone's on the same page, now I can let the varsity go a little bit and I can handle the younger kids who come in. The problem that that presents, though, is the varsity still needs to be pushed. And they still need some direction. So that's where I'm starting to – that's my biggest issue right now. So I spent about 25 minutes with the young kids first. And the good thing is the varsity, if I turn my back, nothing happens. If you turn your back on the young kids, whatever you think a squat used to be has been redefined in ways you can't fucking imagine. It's like a Picasso painting. And so I'm not joking. It's like, holy fuck. Oh, you should hear the things that come out of my mouth. So that's where it starts getting crazy. So I find, you have to find a way to get them doing something that's not going to hurt them in such a way that when you turn your back. But we've been doing a lot of different stuff lately. In fact, right now we are in better shape and physically healthier than we've ever been, even probably prior to a season. We're so far ahead of everyone. And what's even more interesting is we take 1 week off a year. Okay, we take the week off after the season. So we train 51 weeks out of the year. To give you some perspective, it's spring break now in London. We had everyone show up except for a few kids who were on vacation. Everyone show up Monday at 9:30 in the morning. Christmas Eve, the whole team showed up. Christmas Eve, Dave. Everyone's there. And they voted on that. Mm-hmm. We said, you guys want the day off? We'll give it to you. You know, we'll find a way around it. So what that allows me is instead of like cramming for a test, like let's say we had 8 weeks to get ready, then you're fucked, right? Yeah. Everyone's sore, everyone's tired. Like, what do we do? Do we train? How do we train? When you have 51 weeks, we just train and kids go home and they're not tired. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You know how easy that is to train kids when we don't have to beat the fuck out of them, and they can come in day after day after day and they're fine. So, but again, that has to do with the head coach, not me. I just was smart enough to realize 51 weeks of training, you can't beat the shit out of people.
No.
And I did a video on my Instagram page. This is the first time I did a spoken video because I was so upset. For about 2 weeks, I watched videos on YouTube, like strength hype videos from colleges and high schools. Time,
yeah.
So I'm watching them, and it's from all different colleges and high schools, and they're from 5 years ago. Maybe the kid who's severely out of shape, but that's good. It's just you have to have some expectations. But for the most part, we run, and the kids are like, that's it, But you can do that if you do that 51 weeks out of the year. We don't even condition during the season. We're in such good shape, and but that's a whole nother thing. But where was I?
Well, I think another thing that kind of comes into that, and this is just me being
grind.
Yeah, it's me being outside of the sphere. I'm outside of the bubble. Like, you're in the bubble. Like, you're living in that bubble. I'm in a whole nother fucking bubble. Is a lot of coaches and a lot of people that would criticize high school coaches or even college coaches to a certain degree, lower level college coaches. They don't understand that you have a 4-year attrition rate.
Yeah.
In high school, that would be good, but it's probably average. College is probably less. It's probably 2.5-year attrition rate
at the bigger schools. Yeah.
Yeah. So your training it's going to be basic, because if any strength coach, personal trainer, on whatever you want to call yourself out there, if you got somebody that came in that never lifted weights before in their life, what are you going to have them do the first 3 years?
Yep. Well, that's why I tell people it doesn't matter. For example, if you're Dave Tate, All-American D-end, you're an All-American great D-end. You're not an All-American lifter. You're a shit lifter.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really need to do anything that fancy. That's where I think things get a little fucked up, is they see Chuck Vogel or whoever. I'm just making this, because Chuck's picture's up there.
Yeah.
He's using all these fancy things. That's because Chuck's an advanced lifter. If you take Chuck out to the football field, you're going to teach him how to get in a stance for the first 12 weeks and show him how to fire out. That's it. So, and I'll never forget the well, this doesn't have, I'm just going to tell this Louis story that you told me one time about. Louis was talking to a basketball coach, and they didn't want to, he's like, the kids don't really want to lift. And Louis is like, that's fucking crazy, lifting weights and make you better. Mm-hmm. And then a couple weeks go by or something, and Dave's like, "Hey, maybe we should outside the gym we'll put up a basketball hoop." And Louis like, "Wow, that's fucking stupid." He's like, "Well, now you know how basketball players feel about lifting." And
that was just me being addicted.
yeah, I know, but it's a great point. It's a great point. And that's the other thing I think people need to understand is, as a coach, no one in that weight room is going to care more about training than you. They don't care. I mean, they care, and most of the kids do care. But they're not going to go home and research and spend all time. They're going to go out and do whatever the fuck they want. And that's I always tell if they cared about training, you wouldn't have a job, dude. So just relax. And but I don't know.
To fall back on it a little bit, and this would be the most optimal situation. The kid trains under you for 4 years, then he goes to a D1 school, then that coach gets him with 4 years of solid base training.
Yes.
And then perhaps, I'm using that term very loosely because I've seen the same videos. I'm going to say it again, very loosely. Perhaps that kid through a full off season, a couple other 8 week, college is weird the way that the training is broke up. Then maybe they are at a position conditioning wise to do some crazy shit like that after 6 years of solid base training. And I'm still saying perhaps.
Well, the problem is the way that you remember how we talked to Buddy and Milo, and they're like, with all the bullshit that they have to deal with the unions, they don't really get the guys at all, right? For the football. Now with college, it's a little bit different, but they have some kind of limitations. The problem is I'll give you an example. At the end of this football season, it's November, December. Right now, me and Dave, let's say we're playing, we're only conditioned to do what we do on the field. That's it. So generally, you're in the best condition for what you do, but in the worst conditioning otherwise. Mm-hmm. It's like powerlifting. Like I can walk up to the monolift, I can get through my workouts, but you ask me to go to Disney World, it ain't gonna happen.
No.
So then we take 3-4 weeks off for Christmas break, and then we come back in January. And what do they have them do? These fucking insane circuits. They call them morning runs or something. And then so you're asking your guys to do the most conditioning when they're least prepared. Does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes no sense. It's just digging a hole.
So now you're dug a hole, and now you have spring ball come around. Now you can't really train that much. And then you have some time off for finals. Then you have the off. So you really don't get a lot of time. If they were smart, like, listen, we're going to build you back up right through spring ball. We're going to train through spring ball with some sense of common sense. And we'll go right through to the end of the, at the beginning of the season. But instead, it would be great to think that you could take a kid 4 years of great training, and then we can do that, but they fuck it up already.
Yeah.
They believe working hard. Like the other thing is they all think they're fucking Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs do that for 5 days a week, 5 days. Hell week is 5, what do they call it? 5 days, Hell week. And they're the toughest motherfuckers in the world, and most of them leave. Mm-hmm. What makes you think some kid who's on scholarship is going to give it, And no, granted, they're not doing the same thing the SEALs are doing, but they adopt that weird attitude where it's. And the other thing you have to understand too, and I got this from Don James, the great legendary Washington football coach, is whatever guys we have, that's who we got to play with. I can't make a kid quit. That's fucking stupid. Especially at London, we don't have enough guys. Everyone on our team plays both ways. I can't afford a kid to quit. I can't. That doesn't mean I don't push the kid, but I'm not here to, ruin his life.
Yeah.
It's not like the SEALs were like, listen, if Gary fucks up, dude, you're dead. It's like, well, if he fucks up, we'll just teach him again, maybe.
Yeah. To be fair to most of the strength coaches that I know and that you know as well, I would probably guess the majority of this is just marketing hype bullshit.
It is, but I also think, like I said, I think it's the head coach who puts his fucking nose in. And I'm in a great situation is he doesn't tell me what to do. Like he'll ask me and we'll have suggestions, but it's pretty much like, well, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of coaches that do that. Like I don't tell them what fucking defense to run.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Exactly. The higher level is going to be less
and I'll
likely.
Tell you, the best thing I tell, like the head coach and I are really good friends. And when I first started the off season, Kyle has his, he did like GAs in the weight room and stuff, like his internships and stuff like that. So his knowledge base is pretty big with training. And so the first couple weeks of my first off season, he was like, can we do some of this? Should we do this? And I'm like, yeah, we don't really need to. What about this? And he's like, maybe we should add in some of this. I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. And so finally I walk up the stairs to the weight room, and there's Kyle sitting on the bench. He's got his head in his hands, just looking miserable. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong? He's like, dude, I just did our workout, what you had the kids do. I'm like, saying, when, you know, we've built up to it. We start off with dumbbell squats and push-ups. That's how we started. But so I think it's important that you have that kind of trust. And you really don't, you know, if I was the head football coach, you want, especially at Alabama or Ohio State or LSU, like, you're responsible for everything, man. Like, if this company goes to shit, guess who? Guess who?
Oh, I know very well.
Yeah, you're digging your own fucking grave, dude. Boo. So I get it to a certain extent, but that's kind of why you outsource shit or you know, delegate. There we go.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to delegate, outsource, and listen.
Yeah,
you know, listen to the greatest criticism, as long as it's coming from the right people.
Yep.
And build a network of people that you can trust, and that's a tough one. You know, especially, I think you gotta, I'm trying to find all these reasons to justify why being old is a good thing. But, you know, being older is a good thing because you got people that you've known for 20 years. So you kind of know, yeah, I can trust this guy. I'm not too sure about this guy.
Yeah.
You know, so when it comes to shit that's really fucked up, say you need what's the word I'm looking for? Introspection. Introspection. You know,
something like that.
Yeah, I got five.
Looking inside.
Yeah, exactly. I got people I can go to and say, look, man, be real with what you're what you think, and there's going to be no fucking doubt. I won't like what I'm going to hear most of the time, but
it's what you need to hear.
But it's what you need to hear. Where, you know, a lot of times if you just have buddies that you've been hanging around with for a couple of years, they're going to tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear.
Yeah, it goes back to the old. You're right at parallel. Then you go to a meet.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Dude, I heard there was the geared meet at the Arnold, and right?
Yeah. There's about 8 people.
All right, so
geared.
So I got lost I couldn't find, you know, whatever. I wandering around. Someone saw me, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, the meet's terrible. All the squats are high." And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, it made me feel so happy again.
Yeah,
back to where it should be, baby. The equilibrium has.
Exactly.
And what's funny is towards the end of the geared revolution, man, my squats and your squats were fucking deep. We took them to the hole, baby.
Now they would be.
Yeah,
at the time, it's like you do the lift and you're holding the bar, you're doing that soft look over your right shoulder, like, oh yes,
whew,
got it. You know, or
so.
you know, you got the whole thing going where you missed the first 2, and you're like telling your buddy, man, go tell the announcer to let the crowd know I need this one to stay in the meet.
Go over by that real easy judge, have him tap you.
Yeah, have Louis call me up. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's like 7 or 8 things. There's an article there. Here's a little different question to go in a different direction. I'm going to relate this to athletes, and I can take it more from, you know, a company perspective. How to fire a client or customer, how to cut negative people, even if it's family members, out of your life. So let's say you got an athlete that's not, you can't really fire well, I don't know. Talk about that.
Well, with the athlete stuff in high school, you got to give them, I believe you have to give the kid every chance, every single chance, because you have a chance to completely turn his life around. I think that's, and I've seen kids, and, you know, I had a couple freshmen or so who quit the team and they come back a couple years later. I didn't even know it was the same kid, completely different kid. And at that age, you know, you're dealing with so many outside influences, and the kids need to mature. I mean, that's just the way it goes. You're a very young kid. You can't apply being alive for 45, 50, 40 years, whatever you are, and expect a 13-year-old kid to grasp that. Now with like your everyday life, like your friends and stuff, you walk this weird line because you want to help people, your friends out. But if they're continually digging a hole for themselves and they're trying to drag you in, you got to go. And I just, I don't have, we have what, maybe 70 years on this earth, 70, 80, especially when you start to get big and all this bullshit that we're doing. I just want to spend it with my family, with people I love to do. And I'm not a very social person. I love hanging out with my wife and my kids. And I just think it's, the best way to put this is, I don't want to spend time with doing things that I don't really want to do. Of course, you're going to have to, do the bullshit. You got to do your taxes. I mean, at least in theory, you have to do your taxes.
Well, you've also earned a position to be able to, just to do that, to do what you're saying.
But at the same time, even if, with a lot of stuff, like if, I've talked to my son about this, my oldest son, one of his friends was drinking and stuff. I'm like, dude, fucking let him go. Because, trying to help him out, I understand, but that's not your fucking job. It's his parents' job. And you're going to get associated with him. You're going to, you're going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's doing nothing to help you out. And, it's funny, like, right? Remember when we were in high school and everything fucking mattered? And now it's 2019, like, nothing matters. Now, it mattered at the time. You have to have some perspective.
Yes.
But, it's important that he be selfish in his desire to be better, I guess is the best way to say it at that age. I think it's super. Now, when you're a little older with a family, like, you can't be so selfish with it. But the way our society works is, he's got a small window for college and small window for a lot of this. Now, granted, you can always make amends and stuff, but he wants to play sports in college, and if his drunk friend fucks him up, then what are you going to do?
One mistake can kill a dream.
Yeah, and especially I tell all the kids, listen, I don't know what you guys do on the weekends, but take people's keys and take people's cell phones. Don't record a damn thing, because it'll ruin you. Dude, one tweet from 20 years ago or whatever. I don't know how long Twitter's been around. Dude, it'll ruin people. One picture. You have one girl who sends some fucking nude photo, you're screwed, dude. So I know this gets a little bit off topic, but I just think when you're a young kid and you have something you want to do, whatever that is, whether it be sports or whatever, be selfish in your pursuit and make sure the people around you, at the very least, don't take something away from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's a mature thing to do. It really is. So me personally, I was so driven and such a kind of an asshole with my selfishness, as most men are, that it never really occurred to me to get driven in another direction, because I'm like, this is what I want. So
JL and I had a conversation about that, because it was something that popped in my head a couple of weeks ago and I couldn't get it out. And that was, when I was powerlifting, it was everything.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that knew me at the time would 100% fully agree that, I was a selfish prick. The only person I cared about was myself. All I fucking cared about was lifting weights. And that went on from 13 until too old, for too long. And, I don't regret it. I'm sorry for some of the things that I've said and done, but I don't necessarily regret that. But that's all in. And when you're 100% all in like that, and you truly have been there, and that this is the key thing, you truly have to know exactly what I'm talking about. Not like, well, yeah, I went all in for this party, or I went all in for 2 weeks before this wrestling tournament. I mean, all in. And then you sit back and then you ask yourself, do I really want to be all in with my company? Or do I really want to be all in with my family? As fucked up as it sounds, but do I really want to be all in with my family? Because that means I may lose my company. I may lose the ability to support them.
I think as you get older, you can figure out a way to get the benefits of all in without the emotional and physical toll.
I agree.
At a young age, you don't know any better. And we talk about time management or whatever you want to say, but emotionally, to me, it was football. And I'll never forget my final game. I was walking out of the stadium and I remember thinking, holy fuck, what do? I have nothing to do with my life. Like everything that I did from, every class that I took was based around football. Like, shit, can I get to practice and stuff like that all my entire off season? And I'm like, I have nothing to show for this, man. I'm not going to the pros. And it wasn't until, 15 years later, I'm like, man, I'm glad I did that. And so I think the rewards you reap sometimes of being all in don't show until later. But I still think that you are definitely, dude, look at this fucking place. You're all in on your company, but maybe you're not as
not as much as I was powerlifting.
Yes, but you're incredibly successable.
Depending on who.
Yeah, I know, but that's.
I mean, we can go back and forth.
I know, but here's the thing: is
Here, let me go down this rabbit hole. Here's the way that I have come to define success in a very morbid fucking way. A couple years ago, I was at a funeral, and it was like an in-law of
someone
a family member, so not somebody I really knew, somebody I knew of. I was there for support for other people.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I'm looking around during, the wake and funeral and so forth. And I realized, you know what, there's like 5-6 people, up by the casket. They're hurting, man.
Yeah.
Their lives just changed forever. They're going to be thinking about that person every day for the rest of their life. And then a little bit back further were the people that were there to support those people.
Yeah.
Out of respect, they came because of those people. A little further back, kind of like sitting in the chairs where I was, flipping through, my phone, everybody's trying to figure out, well, how long should we stay here until we can get out of here for dinner? All right. And then I started wondering, who am I really living for? Am I living for the people in the back seat flipping through their phone, or am I actually spending my time living for the people who are going to remember me every single day for the rest of their life? And if that is true, what are they going to take away from that?
Yeah.
So.
Well, you talk about getting rid of people, the cancers in your life, or, you basically, no matter how big you are, whether you're the president of the United States, when you pass away, it's still 5 or 6 people that are really hurt than the rest.
Oh, yeah.
Now you might have a bigger funeral and all that other bullshit, but at the end of the day, the world keeps turning. Sun comes up, sun comes down.
So the decisions that, I've come to make, and it's just kind of been over my entire life slowly, because like everybody, I've made my fair share of mistakes, if not more, I think about those people first.
Yep.
Then I think about whatever that other decision is. So if it's a business decision, okay, how's it going to impact those people?
Yes.
And then is this high risk, low risk, medium risk? Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying I'm not going to take high risks. That's a necessary part, of being a business. If you're not willing to put your balls to the grindstone, you're going to go out of business. By no means am I saying you can just coast through it, because you can't. It's too vicious of an environment, too competitive of an environment to always have to be the nice guy or whatever somebody wants to say.
Yes.
You have to do what's right for the values of the company, which is, another conversation that can go on, which is interesting because I remember when I first set them down, it was me, you, maybe Chris and Traci. That might've been it. And I said, hey, we need some values for this company. And we wrote them down, and I kind of brainstormed them through a book that I found on best way to do that. And I remember you telling me, are you willing to abide by these no matter what? And I says, well, what do you mean? He says, unconditionally.
Yeah.
Like these have to matter, even if you don't like what the outcome of it's going to be. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah. If you're willing to risk something.
I didn't know. I had to table it for a week and I had to think about it because it's like, well, he's got a point. And that kind of goes back to somebody was asking about firing and so forth. You got to have a certain set of standards or guidelines, or we have a 3-strike process. There has to be certain things. There has to be, there isn't, here's one executable thing, you're gone. That, some things, that's an outlier situation. But if it's a set of a warning type situation, then we have a 3-step process that we follow. If it's an employee or if it's a team member, they all follow the same things. It doesn't matter if it was fucking JL got, log taken away because he was one of my best friends, because of that. And once I had the conversation with him, he was 100% cool about it. It was the best thing, at the time for that. But you can't have conditions on that the same way you can't do that with your athletes. You can't treat one better than when you're going to treat another, given the exact same situation.
Yes. Well, that's, I could counter that with something. I wrote an article about this, about being a walk-on and what it taught me. And it's a little bit different than what you said, but I realized if I'm not the head cheese, I'm not the quarterback, I'm not the star running back, I can't get away with as much. So I'll give you an example. How do I put this? I guess I'm kind of, and I'm not saying most people run businesses with, or anything, a team. You get a little more leeway with what you provide.
Yes.
Since I'm just Joe Blow walk-on, I can't get away with missing team meetings and stuff. If you're the starting quarterback,
True. And
I learned real quick, in this world, nothing's fucking fair. It was a horrible, in high school, they always try to, everyone gets the same punishment and stuff. But the reality was, it's, and my wife pounds that in our kids' heads. Like, dude, life is not fucking fair. Like, sometimes you lose your Legos. It's just the way it goes, man. I learned real quick, like, my value for a lot of things is based on what I bring to the table. And if it's subpar, then that's just the way it goes. I'm just not, I guess that to me, the walk-on thing and my value and stuff, I realized where I stood in the hierarchy of football.
I'm going to change my answer because you just called me out, and it's
well,
true. It's true though. It's true because with certain things, it's true.
Well, here's the thing, Dave. Let's say you had a guy. This wouldn't be applicable to this company, but let's just pretend you have company A builds widgets or whatever the fuck it is, and he came in, sat down at a table, thought of something, and was like, "Man, look at this, the schematic. This just made you $1 billion in 2019." And he's like, "Listen, I'm out of here. I'll see you, man." And you're like, "Well, what about the meeting?" He's like, "I didn't go to the meeting. I just made you $1 billion fucking dollars." Like, you can't really fire that guy for leaving the meeting. Mm-hmm. Now, the guy who doesn't really do anything, or not, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
is not as important.
And that is
it matters. So I think even with the way I coach kids, for example, the way you deal with kids is going to be different because this is on a human level. Some kids don't respond to screaming and yelling. Some kids, I try to have good positive feedback. Some kids, you can just like, "Dude, that fucking sucked. Holy shit, what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, it fucking sucked." I think he laughs it off. You do that to other kids, they're gonna be crying, they're gonna be feeling down. So everything's gonna be treated a little bit differently. But you're even in society. I'll give you an example. Is let's say you're a doctor and you give free health care to homeless people on the weekends. You're worth more than a rapist. Would you agree? Right? I don't. And that's where I have a trouble with people like, everyone's the same. It's like, no, you're not, dude. That dude's doing fucking good work. That guy's helping his community. That guy's, he's got 3 kids. His wife passed away from cancer. He's raising 3 kids, and he brought in a foster kid. Look at that fucking dude. And then some dude's over there, mooching off the fucking system because he's got a bad back. It's like, he's not worth as much. Mm-hmm. And it's just a hard reality to take. And that's the biggest takeaway I got from college football. It was like, fuck, dude, my worth, like, I have to bring something to the table. And that's a little bit different with the 3 strikes thing, because
not necessarily though, because there's high-end mistakes, right? So say in business, if it's sexual harassment problem,
that's
right, if it's theft problem, You know, if it's somebody that wants more flexible hours, but they're getting their shit done all the time.
Yeah. What do you got? Like,
yeah, go ahead. You know, do what you want to do. Now, if somebody else gets pissed because they have more flexible hours, but the other person doesn't, but they're not getting their shit done, we'll get your shit done.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
what I'm trying to say is
that is the real world. That's where you're 100% true. And what I tried to drive home to my pain in the ass fucking 15-year-old is, you know, attitude and execution, and it matters. You know, getting things done matters. You know, he didn't want to go to baseball practice because it wasn't mandatory. I'm like, that's when you have to go.
Yeah.
So the coach, even if you suck, the coach sees you there.
Dude, and it is funny because in a room of 50 or 60 kids, I see a lot of shit. I'm like, you really think I don't fucking see this stuff, guys? Yeah. Excuse me, I just burped. But it's funny because when you're a kid, you think you're getting away with everything. Mm-hmm. And then when you're a parent or adult or coach, you're like, dude, you know, I see most of it. Like you're going to get away with some. It's like speeding. You know, you'll get away with some, but you're going to get caught, right? Yes. And you know, coaches got, you know, my vision's fucking horrible now, as we discussed. Mm-hmm. But I still see stuff and I hear stuff, and so.
How do you address it?
Like I said, you have to, like the bad attitude.
Well, just say I mean, there's some stuff that's off the cuff. You're just going to let it fly, but the you know, it's going to lead to a hurricane. Yeah.
Well, we don't really have that many issues, I'll be honest. And that again has to do with, I think it has to do with being where we are. London's different than being, let's say, Dublin.
Or is it cutting it off before it becomes a problem?
The other thing is we had my first off season, and then we had the first good year, right? Those seniors were they had been part of the program for 4 years. They had some tough times, and they were so intent on owning their own program. Does that make sense? Like taking responsibility, that they dug their hands in the dirt, and didn't let anything if you didn't show up, if you didn't give effort, if you got a shitty attitude, they called you out on it. We talk about building leaders in the weight room. And then the next group comes in, and instead of, you know, sometimes like the seniors will become, you know, I was hazed as a freshman, you're getting hazed, right? You hear that bullshit. Instead of that, it was, this is the way it's done. We're going to do things right. And you better you know, we're going to spray down kids, we spraying down the equipment, clean up the fucking weight room. This is our weight room, you know? And some kids, you know, the seniors get it. And that's what I want passed on. So that's addressed. But, you know, one of the things you have to do is you just have to pull them aside. Like, dude, this is, you know, I know you can do better than this. You know, is there something going on? So I think you have to, the kids address it, but I think as a coach, you need to address it too. But I always just take them aside and just speak to them like a human being. They're not adults, but they're humans. Like they're, you know, and if all you do is yell at them and criticize them and get on them, then I don't think it helps anything. And I think growing up when we played football, you never got a compliment, right?
No.
You fucking fat piece of slow shit. And holy shit. Now that still goes on to a degree in football because that's the way football is. Football is a very demanding sport. But I have found it's much easier to get kids to cooperate when you're positive with them. And I always try to set it up so that kids have some kind of success on a daily level. Like, wow, you really did that well. Look at that. Like, you know, so I set up their weights. I don't want a kid maxing out and failing. If you and I fail on a two board, it's like, fuck it, you know.
Yeah.
If a kid fails, then it's like, man, what did I do wrong? It's my fault. Well, I tell them all the time, if you miss weights on your big lifts, that's my fault. That means I didn't program correctly or I didn't see something, you know. But you can catch more bees with honey bullshit. And I think it's more, it may have been true when we were kids. Maybe they just didn't do it like that, but I think it's very true now. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, fucking throw confetti in a party. You just have to give them a pat on the back. Like, dude, that was fucking awesome. Now you're starting to get it, you know? And it's hard, like, you know, as a parent, because you're around your kids so much that you're right. You want to like, dude, what the fuck? You cannot be this annoying. It's almost impossible.
It is.
Like there. And so with that, and I have to, you know, so you have to compliment, you know, as much as you can, and not bullshit compliments. Now you did really, my youngest son doesn't respond to overzealous compliments, right? If he's written, I don't know why, but he writes fucking books all the time. He's got probably 10 full books that he's wrote and illustrated, and I don't know what it is, but he doesn't want you to compliment on. So that's a pretty fucking good book, dude. Very good.
You really don't know what it is.
Well, I don't write any books like that. Listen, asshole. But it's really interesting. So with him, it's not it's just, yeah, you did good. Like, picture's pretty good. And he's happy. Like, you can't give him too much, or he's like, don't look at it, So, again, that's a person-on-person basis. But the bottom line, Dave, is in this day and age, you have to be more positive than you think. And that goes, like, when I walk into that weight room, it's not my job there. It's not very hard. It's not like I'm Buddy Morris and some of those guys. Remember how many hours they spend? But I have to make sure I come in there with a good attitude, because I am the leader in that weight room, so I want to present. Like, if I come in there all mopey, then what do you think's going to happen, right? If you come in the house and you're all pissed, you know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to put on. So I try to have the positive attitude and stuff. And there's a lot that goes into that as far as making sure the kids are successful. I'll give you just the easiest one. When we do some of our running towards the end of the off season, we start timing some of the runs. So I know that the kids are where they need to be, right? We don't have a conditioning test, but we have standards. And let's say we're running 50s or 100s or something, and the kids are coming in slower. And I know they're giving great effort. Then I know, like, it's my fault. Like, they fucking tired or something, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I just call it wrong times.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys did good. Fuck yeah, we're making all our times. And I just increase the rest periods a little bit, because the kids don't know, like, after a while.
Yeah.
And it's so, the old way, when you and I were playing football, was just, fuck it, you got to keep running. What does that accomplish? Then they're more tired because they're already been tired. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And if you know when they're giving effort. So I just read off wrong fucking times. I'm like, yeah, you guys did good. So now that they have a sense of accomplishment, and it's not done in a, everyone's the best, right? Does that make sense? Like, there's a whole other ball game. So, but I'm not just training for that day. Like, we talk about some of the bullshit training that we've seen over the years. In the last 10 years or so, some real shit fucking programming.
Yep.
And we train with the big picture in mind. So I want the kids to come back Wednesday or Friday and have a great day. If I beat the fuck out of them on one day, I talk about climbing a ladder all the time. The ladder is 300 feet. Every day we go up one rung. So I don't want too much. I don't want too little. If we have a crazy day, we knock them down 30 rungs. Now we got to fucking start up. Because let's say we train like shit, like fucking crazy on Monday. We've had this happen. Then Wednesday rolls around, like, Dave, you really want to bench today? And then Wednesday's ruined. And then Friday, we're like, let's just get back into it. So we've ruined the whole fucking week because of one fucking day.
Well, optimally, you want them at the top of the ladder after the 4 years, because now
Yes.
they're on a new building.
Yes. Yes.
So.
And don't even get me started on when I send the kids off. Holy shit, Dave. The workout programs I see, like, they send them their summer pack.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, Dave.
But I think that's getting into an area that you can't control.
I can't control. I know I can't.
And
I let it go, but it breaks my heart, man. I'm like, dude, we've there's a reason, I'm not the only reason why, but physically we're dominant.
Well, I'll pause there just for a minute. You do have a great coach. That's already been established. There is a great coach there. This is a small league, right? This is a farm town league.
Yeah.
This is not a league that has Catholic schools that are recruiting people.
No.
This is not a league that has any school that I know of that's recruiting kids from other schools. The only time you get your dick sanded is when you go to the playoffs, and then you got to play those Catholic schools. Now, when you're that small town league, and this is not putting down small town leagues in any way whatsoever, strength fucking matters.
Yes. Well, we saw
a lot.
Two things matter. Well, there's a lot of things that matter, but I'm going to go over this real quick. Is being physically stronger helps you mentally and physically. It doesn't even matter if you play football or not. Okay. Number two is with this work we do in the weight room and the work we do in the conditioning, the work we do on the field, the small things fucking matter. If that foot is not behind the line, those kids will call that fucking kid out and they will grill him because that's not how we do things, okay? So all the small things, you know how that shit goes, right? You dot your I's, cross your T's, everything, all the small shit matters. So our first playoff game we play in, we should have not won that game. We shouldn't have won any playoff games based on who we played. Their team did so many things wrong, it drove me crazy. I wanted to be like, dude, come on, man. Like, just fucking line up right. Mm-hmm. Like, it was driving, like, because we're so adamant about doing the right things. Like, I'll give you an example. When your workout says 225 or 220, you don't put 225 on because that little shit matters. It's just a little discipline thing. Mm-hmm. And does it really matter, Dave?
Not really, no. But discipline does.
But discipline does. So then we see a team that they should have fucking killed us, and we just run all over them. In fact, we ran over them so much that because they ran one of those fancy spread offenses. The team was yelling at us at the end of the fourth quarter. You guys don't even know how to fucking play football. This ain't football. Because we just run like the wing tee, which was like the very first offense ever invented. And it's like, we don't know how to play football. We're fucking kicking your ass all over the place with what football really is. We're not playing basketball on turf. And then our second playoff game, again, it's easy to be a big fish in a small pond. And we played the most physical, dominant team in Division IV for the last 12 years, and we beat the fuck out of them. Now, we had some great players. We had tremendous running backs and stuff. But everyone else is a supporting character. And it's funny because I always tell people that, let's say we had a 6'5", 250-pound dude who's shredded, runs a 4.6. Strength training is not going to help him that much. I mean, it will, but
not that much.
But the kid who can't really do anything, that's where the program starts to help, where now he can become a contributor or a starter. And then you get enough of those. I told a strength coach one time, he came up to me after the game, he's like, man, what do you guys do? I'm like, my goal is just to make my average guy kick your average guy's ass all over the fucking place. That's my only goal. Because your freak is always going to be your freak. But if I can get a bunch of kids who just like, all of a sudden after 4 years, they got triceps that hang off their arms, and in high school football, you're going to have a lot more average guys than you have freaks, especially in a smaller town. And that doesn't, like you said, recruit kids. Then all of a sudden your freaks don't matter as much anymore because now they're getting, everyone else in the team is on their back. You go ahead and make a play, dude.
Yeah.
But I think I've said this in the EF when I did the sports seminar.
Yeah.
That, the goal is to make the bench warmer into a contributor, the contributor into a starter, the starter in all conference. And again, after 4 years, you see some kids that, I had kids play amazing that you're like, man, there's no way 4 years ago I could see you. One of our kids, I'm not going to name him or something, but he's not very athletic at all. You could hear him running. He runs with heavy footfalls, probably runs like a 5'5". He had 20 pancakes in the game against an all-state kid. Pancakes. And not just on the – I'm talking 20 yards down the field, bent him over. He doesn't even know how to talk trash. He's too smart to talk trash.
Yeah.
And, he's like, you don't even know what fucking pi is, motherfucker. You think a cosine and sine's the same motherfucking thing? So you know what a tangent is? And but, that's just a result of him again. And it was funny because the first time he played was a year prior. And it was against the same team he had, whatever. But the bottom line is he got a couple pancakes and he ran off the field. He's like, Coach Wendler, I'm what? And he's like, it's so easy if you only have one job. Because all he had to do was not let the guy cross his face or something. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking football, baby. You only really have one job. All right. Yeah, you can ask another one. We're just blabbing about it.
Well, we got a bunch of comments and
comments. You guys are old.
Yeah.
Some of them are funny. Some of them, like one of them, the guy said Jim needs to get core values tattooed on his forearm because he asked Dave that every time.
Core value?
So apparently you asked him that last time.
Yeah. I think dude, I'm telling you, having that, and that was 2003. I still stick to that with training. Everything I do with training has 5 values of training that I do. And if it doesn't stick to that thing, I fucking toss it.
What are the 5 values?
Of training, start too light, progress slow, use compound movements, attempt to set PRs in some sort of way. Okay, and there's a lot of ways you can do it. And number 5 is the new one I added it took me 2 years to add this. Or what year is this right now?
2019.
2019. So it took me 8 years to add a 5th one, and that means balance. And all that means is, if you're a power lifter, you have to do something other than just maximal strength, mobility. You have to have some kind of does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean GPP. If you go old school.
But you have to have some kind of balance in your training, and so even with coaching, I haven't got there just yet. But number one thing I tell people when they coach is don't coach what you don't know. That doesn't mean you can't learn, but holy shit, that's why there's a number of reasons why we don't power clean. But the number one is I can't coach 60 kids at once to power clean or hang clean or whatever the hell you want to. And so I'm just not going to do it. Now it would, logic tells me, right, every program in the world's fucking power clean. You got to do it. But I'm like, well, what's the point if I don't know what I'm doing? If you're a body weight only guy and you became a head strength coach, I just do the body weight shit until you figure out how to squat if you choose to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And so like all these fancy things that I see people doing, I don't understand them, so I'm not going to do it. Like I don't know it. I can't coach it. How can I expect these kids to do it if I don't know it? So I'm currently trying to figure out like my core values of coaching and stuff. And I have same thing. My wife and I do core values at home, and I think that's super important. So it's funny that the biggest takeaway I get was that stupid fucking thing you probably presented 15, 16 years ago, Dave.
Well, it's
and it didn't, and it's, we all know the 10 commandments, right? But I think we need something more personal.
Yes, and that's where the core values come in. The core values are basically just this basic statement of what you want to strive for, but then they become standards.
Yes.
And standards become quantifiable.
And when shit hits the fan, you go, how many times did shit hit the fan and you went off the base, went off the fucking reservation, and you're like, dude, what the fuck?
There were a few times we had to sit down and say, here, guys, we need to look at these values. And I'll tell you what, that meeting would last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, fuck. There it is.
Turn the ship right around.
There we go. Fuck, I don't want to do this, but.
And the other thing that I think it makes better in your life, it makes your decisions easier.
Yes.
Because you don't have to wrestle with this and that. You're like, listen, this is what's important. I'm going to stick with this, and it's got me this far, and I know these are right. That's the the thing.
They're you.
Yeah.
That's why it took you years to develop that.
Yeah, you can't just sit down like in 5 minutes and figure. Like I've been coaching for God knows how long now, and I still don't have them, and I will. But I'm still young. With what I'm doing, I've only been doing this for I don't know. I have no idea.
And it will still. The thing is, they'll still evolve to where, ours used to be, as far as the company used to be, 9 or 10 or 11 or whatever it is, and now it's just focus.
5.
Yeah, now it's just focus, trust, and strength.
Yeah.
It's all been brought down into 3, which is easier to.
I was going to say, as you get older, they get shaved down.
They get shaved down. They be compiled, and then they can't just be me, because it's now it's a company. It has to represent more. Where your strength training values for the team have to be team structured values.
Yes.
They're different than what your family is going to be.
Yes.
Or what your own personal ones are going to be.
And it's a. I think the best thing is like when Dave said it, meeting took 5 minutes, is it makes things fucking easy in your life. And even George Carlin had a great bit about the 10 commandments. He's like, we can whittle all these down. I think he did it too. Like one was don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much what it comes down to. And, so I think as you get older and as you refine, very few things ever get added. Most of the time things get chopped away.
No, the meeting to make a decision based on the values is what was 5 minutes. The meeting to come up.
Yeah, that's different.
That
may take
a
years.
Month. That's a long, long time.
Well, how long have you had the company? When did you start?
21 years.
Well, when did you start?
1998.
98. So it took maybe 5 years. Because you don't know what the fuck you're doing the first 10.
I mean, It was probably, I mean, it was after you were hired that the values,
Yeah.
I realized something had to come into play because there were so many decisions that had to be made so fast. And we weren't growing dynamically. People misunderstand that. We've never had this great dynamic growth. I don't think I've ever grown more than 15% in 1 year. But still, when you're going from nothing and you're with folding tables and putting out 5 orders per day, then the next day there's like 10, you're like, oh, fuck, how's this going to happen? There has to start to become systems, but then the systems didn't work because we would outgrow the systems within 2 weeks.
Here's, to give people an idea what Elite FTS, and I started in 2003. My second week here, Dave and Traci left me alone.
First vacation.
Years. They hired me to take a vacation. That's pretty much what it came down to. Because you can't plan a vacation in a week. So 1 week, and that means all the orders, all the phones, whatever, so one person packaged everything up, answered all the phones, did all that shit for a week. And this place would fucking burn down if one person was, right? And so if you really, but that was, 16 years ago. So, when I was here, it'd be one person would get added, and it would be a long time till another person got added, or whatever. So you're right. Nothing, but the faster the growth, the faster the fall. Same thing with like losing weight. People like, I lost 60 pounds this month. Like, well, it's going right back on, buddy.
I've done it twice. I've mastered that skill. The one thing that's always funny when we have discussions about the history of the company, I'm like, well, 98, then you came in 2003. Most of the people listening to this were still in their playpens with a diaper and a rattler when we were answering questions on the Q&A.
Yeah.
So it's
well, it's interesting to think though. In 2003, I was here. In 2001, I was doing a Q&As at Kentucky. About 2001.
So that puts a lot of the listeners in a playpen.
Yes,
with a diaper. Actually, a lot of the online experts today.
Yeah,
in a playpen with a diaper, trying to figure out how to deadlift a rattle.
How to not shit their pants.
How to not shit.
While shitting their pants. And
that is a crack on online trainers, but I am going to give the ones that are good credit. So you guys that are good, you do get credit, but I'm going to take the jabs when I can.
What is it? Only 3 spots left?
Only 3 spots left, man. That's the best thing ever.
I just snorted.
Yep, I kind of ripped that off 50 Cent because he had one that was get the strat. I'm like, all right, I need to come up with something to put at the end of my post. That's funny. So only 3 spots left for fucking everything.
All right,
we got a ton more good questions, but I got a personal one.
Yeah.
Last time we did this table talk a few years ago.
Okay.
You mentioned you got into, I don't know if you want to talk about this, so not.
No, go ahead.
You got into a serious motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
You said you almost died. I was wondering if you could tell that story and then how that changed your perspective. That's probably a big one.
Yeah. I don't know what, I couldn't even tell you what year it was. I didn't even know how long it's been since my surgery.
10 years ago, probably. Something like that.
Yeah, it's probably been 8 years, I think. Yeah, I was riding home. My buddy and I did a massive East Coast Southern tour on our motorcycles, and we were heading home on 70. We just crossed into Ohio, and some dude was fucking texting and hit me. And I, 100 yards smashed down that highway. And I won't get into specifics, but I thought I was fucking dead. I remember when he hit me, I was like, this is how I'm going. Fuck. That was like a real weird realization of your death. I imagine that's what it's like when you're surfing and you get crushed by a wave and you're not coming up. You're like, this is it. Anyway, I ended up surviving, and when I was laying in the ditch, because I finally stopped skidding across the road in the road, and I had no semblance of where I was, and I just started rolling, and I was hoping I was going to roll one side or the other because I didn't want to get hit by a car. And I rolled into grass and gravel, and I was like, thank God. And I just remember my wife at the time was 6 months pregnant, and I was like, fuck, dude, I'm never going to see my family again. That's the only thing that went through my mind. Was like, I'm never going to see my kid. I'm never going to see Mason again. And, you know, what a shitty way for a dad to go out, right? Hey, Mason, by the way, I know you're in Texas. Your dad got hit just outside of, you know, West Virginia. I guess the main thing is my initial reaction was like, I'm so happy to be alive. I just wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. And it wasn't like I'm going to go skydiving or anything like that. I was just so excited to be alive that I wanted to do as much shit as I could. And, you know, I loved, obviously, training is a big part of my life. I think I was training not right after, but as soon as I could do something. And it was just, you know, a dumbass fucking move. Like, I want to see if I can lift, you know, and, you know, they had to scrape the gravel out of my back, the road rash, with a steel brush. You want to know what fucking pain is? I mean, I was just sitting there. And lucky, like, everything hurts, so it just more hurt.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's you know, breaking your arm, then someone breaking your leg, and all of a sudden your arm doesn't feel that bad anymore. So, but it was a weird near-death thing that I imagine that's what it's like to be, a semblance of what it's like to be in Iraq and Afghanistan in a firefight where you're this. And maybe there's probably times you feel more confident, but other times maybe you're pinned down. You're like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to die in a fucking, you know, some sand trap in the Middle East, and this is all I got. And but I was never more happy to be alive. And this is the same kind of thing as, you know, my whole life, not my whole life, but when I bought my first house, you know, I was so excited, and most people are, right? And I still live in the same house, and financially we can afford better, but we don't, because we're going to own our house next year. I'll never have to make a house payment again. I don't give a shit. I don't care if my house isn't big. I don't have to pay anything. But there isn't a time that I drive up that I'm not fucking proud of that.
Taxes.
Yeah. Oh, dude, our taxes are so low.
No, you're going to, well, that's good. But you're going to own the house. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but property taxes are, you know, around here are not what they, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I probably occasionally lose sight of it, just like we lose sight of the values. But, you know, occasionally I still remember, it's life affirming. I think it's good. I think it's, I don't want to, it sounds like a dickhead thing to say. I think being almost near death is a good thing. It really was. It was for me, because I got to understand how important my wife is, and my kids are, and my friends are. And, you know, I don't take, every day I train, and this, you know, I train in my garage. I don't take any of that for granted anymore. Because for years I had such a bad back after that motorcycle accident, I couldn't do anything. And then after the surgery, you can't do anything. And now, and I squat down, I'm like, man, I can fucking squat.
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative of that. You know, I'm very appreciative of everything I have. And I think as you get older, you end up doing that for the most part. But, you know, I think the other day, I thought, like, my God, my wife, I'm so happy to have her. She's such an ally in my life. And there's a really goofy movie called Four Christmases. And they're playing this wife or couple versus couple. And it's like they turn over a little hourglass, and she asked him questions and they have to answer. And he asked her, this is what you gave me on Tuesday. And she's like, alibi. Yeah. Like, that's fucking awesome. Like, yeah, I know you murdered someone. I'll fucking cover for you. And that's, you know, I'm so lucky to have her. And I'm lucky to have my kids. And, you know, I never get to see my oldest son enough, but I'm very, you know, I tell him all the time, because he gets sad about it. I'm like, dude, in the big picture, you're fucking lucky. You got a mom who loves you. You got family. Your grandma and grandpa on both sides love you to death. Like, be happy, you know, be appreciative of what you have. So, and I guess that's what it comes down to. But holy shit, I see people in shitty situations, man, and I feel for them, and I hope that they have the same realization that I did, because I see a lot of people just go back to their old ways, just kind of shitting on life, and I'm not saying I'm going out and destroying the world, you know, like, you know, because that's not my attitude. I just want to be with my family and hang out, and does that make sense to you?
It makes sense to me. I mean, I'll echo. I'll echo the same sentiments, but I'm not going to go into details in regards to the situation. But you come out a little different.
Yeah.
Actually, you come out a lot different. It's things that you didn't think mattered. Like my house is almost paid off as well.
Yeah.
And so when I think of that now, it's not like, yeah, cool, my house is almost paid off. It's like if anything ever happens to me beyond that, that's one less thing my wife has to worry about.
Yep.
Now, what else can I take off that plate that if I'm to check out, they don't need to worry about?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, still growing as people, my kid's not, having everything handed to them. But God forbid my eldest is going to need care forever. Is that going to be taken care of? Those type of things become more clear.
Yes.
Decision making is more clear. The things that you used to get real pissed off and stressed about it's like, dude, what the, and I understand why I used to get mad about it before, and I don't think that's age that changes that. I really don't. I think it's circumstances and what you've been through.
But here's the thing is when we were in high school, let's say we're two girls in high school and we go to the prom, we're wearing the same dress. And that's a big fucking deal, right? All that's doing is training you to deal with something eventually 30 years later. It's a little stepping stone. So it's you can't expect a 13-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl to squat 800 pounds because she doesn't have the stress of building up. So all those little things that you think matter in high school, I always joke to say, well, they didn't really matter. Like all the classes you took, yes, they did matter because they led you to develop your strength to deal with shit today. If that makes sense?
Yeah. What does become, and I'll ask you this, what does become real hard is every now and again you'll get, a friend or a close acquaintance that will bring a problem to you and you're listening to it and you care, you want to help them, but in your mind you're like, dude, seriously, it's really hard to kind of like reel yourself back, and to get yourself back into that perspective. And then when you do, you're like, man, I'm so glad I'm not in this perspective anymore.
Yeah. I had someone contact me about 2 months ago about that and something personal and stuff, and it was tough. And I said, dude, I relayed more so that, you got to find your purpose, man. Because if you have purpose, things not magically work out. You feel better. I have a purpose, and it's not just, and I think, like I said, for guys and maybe for some women, God, that's, who knows what I just stepped in right there. It can't be just your work and your family. It's got to be something else that's a little bigger. Now, with what what you guys do here is bigger than just a company. Yeah. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
So that can have purpose, but I think if this becomes more than just or nothing but the business, then you lose your purpose.
It's not. Then it no longer should exist. Yeah. I mean, that's how my mind is. You actually provided a good segue because there was a good question that I actually marked on one of the feeds that was in regards to women in the industry. With I remember the question pretty well. Somebody was asking, with the increase in the number of women coming into strength and conditioning and the number of women coming into powerlifting, what could be done, to be able to help them? Why are they not being showcased? And, I kind of read that a little bit with a grain of salt. And
well, I can answer this perfectly.
Well, you may have the same thought that I do. It's the first thing that went through my mind is you realize that we've had women as coaches and lifters on our website for close to 20 years now, and one of the best strength coaches that I know that's worked every facet of the industry is Julia Ladusky. And I still have yet to find any male strength coach of her equivalent in all different disciplines of the industry. So in a way, I'm like, what, you guys didn't realize that half of our website or half of our athletes have always been women and that the company is 60% female owned. Our warehouse manager is a female, the customer service manager is a female, the content manager is a female. But I do get what they're saying, and I do see what's going on from a bigger perspective, because I can sit here all day and brag about how great we do with it.
Well, here's the thing, Dave, is when I got to Arizona, Meg Ritchie was the strength coach, but she had left. Okay.
Good one.
Meg Ritchie. And then when I was there, Carla Garrett was an assistant strength coach. Meg Ritchie, and so I knew all the guys who knew Meg Ritchie. No one ever mentioned she was a female. She was a fucking tough motherfucker.
She's the one that tackled me at that one conference we went 2 years ago.
All right, so Meg Ritchie and then Carla Garrett, and they helped out. And you have to understand, this is a very machismo football team at the time. We were, it was a different time of football, but things were tough. We had an aura about us. Never was it ever brought up that they were female. And I thought about this for a while. And I thought about other strength coaches that I worked with that were male, and they didn't get the same respect that Carla and Meg Ritchie got. So I started thinking about this, and I'm like, well, what are the two things that Meg and Carla had that were significant that maybe these other guys didn't have? And it was that they did something. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You have to have done something to earn someone's respect. You do not get respect by wearing a fucking badge or because you have the CSCS or any other bullshit or because you have an Instagram account. And you have to have something to stand on. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. That's what fucking drives me nuts. They think it's because they're female. You haven't done shit. You have done fucking nothing. You don't get deserve anything, male or female. And that's just, you know how athletes are. You got fucking scars? Let me see them. All right, I'll fucking listen to you. There's not a single guy that I played with on a football team that gave a fuck. They're like, can you help me? Well, you did something. Okay, I'll listen to you. And then I've worked with females that haven't done shit. And they didn't get respect, and neither did the guys that didn't do anything. So I think playing the gender card's fucking bullshit. It really is. Because you have, and the same thing happened with me. When I went to London, what'd you fucking do? Not, just because I'm bigger dude and covered in tattoos, that didn't mean shit. Did you do something? And not only that, but I continue to do something. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you want to get respect, whether you're male or female, you have to have something to stand on. And I don't care when people are like, well, you don't need to squat 800 pounds. No, but Meg Ritchie's a fucking great thrower. So that requires a discipline that requires, some type of context of understanding what it takes to be a great athlete. So I think that's a weak, pathetic card to play because I've seen it. I've seen guys in the strength industry get zero respect because they didn't do anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a couple things I can throw out just from conversations over the years.
Dude, can you imagine a football team not giving a fuck about a female strength coach? You know how weird that is?
They're not going to care. I mean, the team's
well, that's what but everyone think, right? If
Yeah.
the one sport that's more male than anything, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Meg, you going to help us? All right, fuck it.
Now, what I can't speak on is what the hiring bodies are going to think. That I can't because I don't know. So I can't say one way or another. But I do know that when the females that I've known in the strength and conditioning industry, the collegiate industry, typically end up in the Olympic coaching positions, which is the hardest to be in.
Yes,
because there's more athletes and more things that they have to deal with, and they got to work a hell of a lot harder. And to step out of that and look at it more from the online consulting and that type of perspective is, I think a lot of the question stems around, and this is usually how it works, is, the ones who are showing their tits and ass are getting more clients than the ones that aren't. And to me, that's just poor client education. The clients need to be educated on what is a good coach and what's not a good coach. And I think the whole industry as a whole is failing that.
Hold on one second, Dave. How long are you going to have those tits and ass? That's not a long-term business.
Oh, they're not. It's not going to last. I mean, that's what Julia's been around for 20 years.
That's what I'm saying. So why do you then don't, I had a girl ask me this at the Swiss conference. She's like, what do I do? Everyone's showing their snatches and stuff. I'm like, just don't do it. Just slowly build, man, and you'll get there. As long as you got something to stand on. You can't just expect people just because you put up a few videos, How long did it take you and I to even get remotely? Dude, we used to go places, fucking people would say nothing to us.
Mm-hmm.
We were like the fucking runts of the litter. We've offered our services. 2 strong dudes with backgrounds. Nope, we don't want you. Was it because we're men? right?
No.
And so the whole thing with like the TNA kind of thing, it's not a good business model to have. And so just weather the storm. How many times have you weathered the storm?
Still do.
Yeah.
Still do. Now with
because you have a solid because your business is not based on TNA or whatever.
I tore my
D&Bs, we'll call them
I tore my pecs, but the one thing I've always thrown back just out of curiosity is when I'm asked that question is, to whoever's asking, how many strength coaches have you hired or have worked with that were female? And 100% of the time, the answer was 0. I'm like, well, if you can't help your own industry because you want to hire, this guy for his reputation instead of hiring this female for her reputation, which again, I can provide tons of names of people who can be able to do that, then there's another problem there. But I guess
here's the other thing is are you going to base your hiring process on merit or gender?
It better be merit.
Yeah. I mean, so if you don't stack up to the dude you're fighting, your job against, then if you don't have the same resume or then what do you have to complain about?
Yeah.
Like I bounce my ideas off my wife all the time. She doesn't want anything to do with the industry anymore. She got sick of it, but she still, I trust her judgment on a lot of stuff with, understanding body movement and stuff like that. And it's not just because she's sleeping with me, right? Mm-hmm. And I go with her to, especially when I deal with kids, because she's worked with kids a lot. So I'm always asking her, hey, is there something else I could do to help this out? And then, run it by her. So I guess the thing is, it's more than just the gender thing. It's like the wage gap. It's not just because they're female. It's multifaceted. And, but I think the most important thing, whether you're male or female, I don't care, is you have to bring, like we talk about, we got to bring something to the table. Like you have to impress me a little bit, right? It's hard. It's like when Vincent always says when he does the seminars, he's like, listen, nothing you're going to do is going to impress me, just so you guys understand.
Oh, you'd be surprised how many people try to.
Yeah, it's like,
crazy.
Dude, you bench 275. Like I did that overhead for 30 reps.
Exactly.
For Vincent. And so I think, but at some point you're going to have to do something. And that requires not just 5 years of work and not just 15 years. At 20 years, you're starting to get your feet wet. And I always think, like, if you had to start over right today, like you can't get in the same mindset you had 20 years ago anymore.
No.
Like it's like you've right?
I've tried. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
And like my dad asked me one time, he's like, you still think you could do all the stuff you did, walking on? And I didn't know a soul. I got off a plane with a bag to Arizona. I didn't know anyone. I didn't, wasn't. And I'm like, there's no way I could do that anymore. Like I was in a different place mentally where it was just me against the world. I didn't care. I was, excited to be hit with a bunch of challenges, and I didn't, it was just like, fuck it all.
But put yourself in a different situation that is in violation of one of your core values that directly impacts your business or company, and you're going to go at it with a vengeance, smarter and stronger than you ever would have 20 years ago. So it is situational.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is, though, is
I get what you're saying. I'm just trying to clarify it for the people listening.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you don't get to claim no one likes me.
Yes.
5 years into this, or 20 years into, or 15 years, or whatever it is. It takes time, man. And if all your time is spent online, then it's wrong.
Yeah, it's like
because it's a fucking house of cards, man.
Yeah.
Go out, and I always laugh when, like, how many high schools don't have a qualified strength coach, or how many teams, like even if like the women's basketball team in London, like, hey, I'd love to help you out. All right, fuck, be nice. You can get your foot in the door there. And now I used to have real world experience beyond training, Joe Blow at Bally's or wherever I don't even know if Bally's is open.
Yeah. Anymore. And from the digital end, the one thing I was going to put out there is we accept outside submissions all the time. I mean, 20 years ago, you were the guy reviewing all those. We might get one every 2 months that's from a woman.
Yeah.
And this is out of dozens and dozens and dozens a week. So, people can say, well, all you're doing is printing content that's coming from guys. Well, send me content. You know what I'm saying? It's make it good content, send it.
Well, I got hit with that one time with the content shit. And I'm like, first of all, you don't get to decide what my business does and doesn't. Go fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, how do you know? Because they wanted only black and gay people on my website. They said only them should be on your website. I'm like, well, how do you know they're not gay? We never even talk about their color of their skin. Ever.
Exactly.
Ever.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. It's like for the first time.
It doesn't matter if you got a vagina or you're a wiener, or you got a dick, or if you like it in your mouth or whatever. It's never brought up. So how the fuck do you know? And
for the first time ever, I just said that the company is 60% female owned and every managing department is run by a female out of 21 fucking years. So because like you just said, it doesn't matter.
No.
But I do think this would be an interesting note to put down if we ever get Julia and Jessica, together to kind of get because we got two dudes here talking about, just to get a different perspective and a different take on it would be, interesting. You got anything else over there?
Yeah. One of them was, how did Jim come up with the 531? It actually says 513.
Well, yeah, that guy, don't answer that one because he should have done better with the question.
Okay.
You can't fuck up. There's three numerals.
All right, I got one. You guys have done these in the past, so if you want to skip, you can.
There was one about the 531 that was kind of dual asked, like how did Jim come up with it? Then what did I think about it, or some shit like that.
How did Westside and Conjugate influence 531 when you were writing it, or did it influence? Obviously.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I can't. I can go back to the original Boyd Epley's Nebraska program. Was the original impetus for the training mechs. And I couldn't figure that out when I was a kid.
Impetus.
Yeah, you like that? Huh?
I miss being around you.
Yeah.
My vocabulary increases.
So it was, I can't say one way or the other, the direct thing, but there's no way you can spend 20 years or however long it was doing all these different things and not have everything creep into it. The one thing I'd like to address, and I got this, I don't know if it was on who brought this up, but what advantage does 531 have with my athletes versus conjugate training? So for once and for all, Dave, we're going to explain what conjugate training is so fucking people understand it. Because it drives me bananas. Conjugate training is the raising of several levels at the same time. So with that does that make sense? So it means that means we're doing conjugate training. Our kids are getting bigger, stronger, faster, and better condition. Okay? That is what conjugate training, technically concurrent, but that's what it is. It has nothing to do with board presses or box squats or speed day. It's the raising of several levels at once. That's why it's great for a beginner, right? Because beginners can do all those things at once. And that's why technically with the Supermax phase and all this other stuff, it wasn't really technically conjugate training when we were doing it because we had different phases. We had, lactic acid tolerance training. We hit all these different things. Now,
Blocks.
Yeah, blocks. So let's just understand that conjugate training is what it really is. There's a movie called The Princess Bride. And shit, what word did he say? Yeah. And the guy's like, I don't think you know what that word means. And I'd love to address that because how many times did we do seminars and that's all we said? Like, listen, this is these three things and we're going to try and make you faster, stronger, and bigger at the same time without having the typical Western periodization thing where you had the different phases. And I always thought we made it so simple. Like, listen, you're going to have one day that's fast, one day that's slow. And after that, we're just bodybuilding. That's it. And so with what we do, we have a strength part of the workout. We have a speed part of the workout, strength part of the workout, a mobility part, and a size part, and then a conditioning part. So that is what conjugate training is. So I wish, it's like I don't even know, do people read anymore? I don't know. I just,
When he was working on 531, I mean, really working on it, it's been a process since probably before he was ever employed with
100%
elitefts.
because,
So
yeah.
it's because we would have conversations on how his training with, what was it, bigger, faster, stronger, helped throughout his high school, but he had to manipulate things to really make it work because some things weren't working.
No, it fucking sucked.
It sucked. So he had to manipulate things. So we had a lot of training. People don't understand how many training conversations we had because we cared more about that than work. It's
Yes.
chewing tobacco and talking training and lower back.
It was that and the Nebraska program that, I never really, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but they would have they would give you a max. So your max is 330. Then you would go down the chart and you'd have to do 10 reps here, 10 reps here, 10 reps there. Once you could finish that, then you would go up the other side, another 5 or 10 pounds. Then you would do the reps there. Now, if you didn't hit those reps, you would just continue doing it until you did. That seems like a really bad plan.
Yeah.
Really bad plan, because you're never going to, you're going to have, so it took me 15 years to understand, let's just go all the way over here.
Yes.
Finish all these reps, make it really light. Now we have some momentum building up. And that took, I was 16, 17 when I found that out, and I fucked it up until.
Well, there was a hiatus in there too, when you were training at Westside.
Yeah.
So when we were having these conversations, we would be talking about this in hotel rooms where there would be no fucking air conditioner and the door would be open and all kinds of other shit were going on. And it was always an intriguing conversation because I've studied all training, block training period. And I'm trying to figure out, what is this? Because is this bigger, faster? Is it Bill Starr? It's like this conglomerate. And I don't even think Jim had it really formulated in his mind. It was just the shit that he did to become a better player. And when it came time to get back to town, it's like, fuck it, it's max effort day. And then you forget about it for the next 12 weeks because there's a meet. And then he stepped away from the sport. I hung on for about a year and a half longer than what I really should have. But then I stepped away. And while he stepped away, he had a little group that he was working with out of the S4 compound at night. And then when I stepped away, I couldn't, for identity crisis prevention, which wasn't going very well, as Jim could probably attest to if he was going to be totally honest. I couldn't be around other people when they were training. I couldn't do it. I had to train by myself, and I was doing more dog crap. I moved so far away from powerlifting. You could not move any further away unless I was doing Zumba. So it was like dieting, getting lean, doing dog crap training. And I would do that in a day, and every now and again I would go in at night and I would do my cardio bike stuff, and I'd watch him working with a small group of guys that were in there, and they were making progress and they were getting better. And I'm trying to figure out what the hell is this? And he doesn't know what I'm trying to figure out, but then again, I don't even know what the fuck I'm watching in the first place because it didn't all kind of come together. And then after probably about 18 to 24 months, and it was this stupid AMRAP shit that he was doing. It was like, this fucking guy just did his max for 8 reps. Yep. Or this lady just did 50 pounds over for fucking 8 reps. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's when you were writing, some of the other manuals. And I think it was the training templates manual. And you started getting a lot of questions about the 531. And you said, look, I think, I'm going to write this. I'm like, fucking do it, but just do the very best that you can do, because I'm not going to say I thought it was going to be that it was going to be a great.
Dave, I had no fucking clue. I don't think people understand that I had no master plan.
No, we didn't, because it was just, it funneled down. I mean, it started out as we were just giving away ebooks for free products. Like, hey, buy a t-shirt, we'll give you a book. It takes us no time to put the book together. And the first one was like training templates.
The first one was the band manual.
Yeah, the band manual.
I was talking to Traci about that. She's like, yeah, you know what? I think we're
redoing it right now. And then then it was...
it was the band manual. Then it was like training templates. And then there was max
training 3 days a week.
Yeah, that was the first one. And then I was like, you know what? What was a weird realization was after all the fuck ups I had was when we had people coming in kind of untrained, or they hadn't been lifting for a
Yes,
year.
they were not good athletes.
And I was like, listen, let's just get your shit going a little bit. And all of a sudden, after 8 months, they were pulling or deadlift. Everything was better than they ever were. And I was like, man, we didn't even train fucking heavy.
And people need to understand the book wasn't being written at this time. It wasn't even a
started
concept.
in 2007, and I wrote it in 2009, I think.
Yeah, so it wasn't even conceptualized. It's just like, I want to try to figure out how to help these kids get, and you were trying to get stronger yourself because you want to bring your own raw strength back up. And so it didn't just, there was like no strategic. It was like, yeah, okay, I do remember having a conversation where I said, I think this one might sell, but for us, a good seller back then was like $50. So like, I think this one might do well. So you might want to like not put the upside down crosses inside the book.
I actually had Ken do the cover.
Yeah. And put a real cover together with this and put a little bit more time. And fortunately enough for Jim, but for the people who used the program, it took off, and it took off in all different segments. And it was great it's still great because the longevity proves the success because it's simple and it's easy. I still don't know if I like the AMRAP shit, but I can't complain. It's been fucking going on for 25 years. Yeah. And, your books that have preceded have had, variants and so forth from there. But it wasn't like this thing that it was just going to pop and happen. And,
I had no clue. And I'm very thankful. It's, people say it took you 2 years, about 2 years. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of work went into that prior. We always talk about that. All those.
I can validate that though, because I saw it. I saw you working with all those kids. I saw all that time going into that, and then the time of you actually writing it. The problem I ran into as a business owner is after that happened, everybody who wanted to become part of the team thought they were going to put out the next 531. And it's like, it used to be so easy. We'd sit down and say, hey, this is a good dude. Yeah. Let's ask around. Who's he know? Yeah. That's good. He's got the right values. Let's put him on. Then it was like, oh, wait a minute. This motherfucker wants to write a book. Nah, fuck him. Yeah. And it was the wrong reason. They forgot the thousands and millions of questions and all the other stuff that went into it.
I think with, just with, for coaching or even with what you do online, at some point, things should happen organically. I think people understand when you're trying to push something or you're trying to come out, too quick out of the gates. And I think you and I had developed enough street cred to be like, listen, like, you can trust us. But you know how long it took to earn that trust?
Yeah. And, none of the sales copy was ever good. So
I released all but the last book I released, I didn't even have I just put it up like, hey, book's up.
Yeah.
Literally a thing on Facebook.
Yeah. I really think that the first big round of 531 was sold as people just saying, thank you for answering my question. Yeah. And then they used it and was like, holy shit, this really works. And then started stealing it and posting it everywhere. But anyhow, that's the whole other dirty end of the story nobody ever wants to hear about.
Yeah. That's why we don't do ebooks anymore. Yeah. With the new releases. The other thing that I was really, so I felt like I was very successful at, at doing what I was doing. I was doing pretty well. But when I started coaching, I was like, man, I knew the program worked because I've seen it work, but I'm like, can I actually apply this? And I'm like, man, this is, how nerve-wracking that was? Like, I'm putting my balls to the grind. Like, it's my reputation. And so, and I've seen it, other coaches use it, but now, you know how it is. Like, they don't know the program like I do. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, it's my kid. So I know all the little stuff that goes in there. And so it's very validating for me on a professional and personal level to see our kids make so much progress, not just in the weight room, but on the field, which obviously is the most important thing. And I feel like, all that shit that I've done over the years, all the work is, I'm like, man, it's finally, like, I feel validated in a way. And, people can say whatever they want, this and that, but I'm like, you know what? we're good. We're a good team.
Yeah.
What do you want to say? And I was laughing the other day when someone asked me a question. I'm like, listen, there's what did I say? I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just know that I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
It was the fucking biggest dickhead thing to say. Listen, I'm not telling you wrong, but I know that I'm right. There's so many great coaches that do a good job. I'm not, and the funny thing is even if we took something, whatever different kind of training program, whatever it is, I would apply those same 5 principles I apply. Because people get wrapped up a little bit too much in the sets and reps and stuff instead of the principles. I could take any program, I could just apply my principles, and they're going to be okay. And I wish people would understand that a little bit more, because my God, does it make a difference? And it's when you put up some of the highlights of the video of the presentation, some people are like, "Man, what a jip! They didn't even show the program." I'm like, did you not hear anything I said?
Yeah, I know. It's like, go back, rewind.
It's not the program, buddy. I mean, there's obviously certain elements of the program but it's nothing. It's not like I'm doing barbell squats with the bar on our head. Like, that's the secret, dude. Like,
yeah.
Got to tilt the bar a little bit on your head, put it on your ear. So I'm just very thankful, that on every level. I don't want to say I'm content, and I think you don't want to say that either. But to think of probably one of me, you, Mark Bell, we're able to do this and be okay. We have different levels of success. My version of success is going to be different than yours and Mark Bell's.
Well, you got Spud. I mean, there's a whole bunch of others too.
But it's just like, man, I'm able to pay my bills. I'm able to live very, very frugally. We bought our truck. We had one truck for 3 years. We had one vehicle. That's why I was in such good cardiac shape, because I just walked everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we, it's from a stress point of view, like, we don't ever buy anything we can't afford. We can't buy outright. You have no idea what that's like, how much easier that is on you. Like, the stress just goes down.
Oh, yeah. I do.
Yeah, I just don't need it.
Before we step out of the whole 5-3-1 realm, the one thing with that, see, when I look back on that, it's a completely different story than when you look back on it and when other people look back on it. Because for me, when it was all said and done, it was probably one of the best business learning experiences I ever had in my life. Because I learned from that to not take my staff for granted, and
yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot that went on with that.
Yeah.
That had I not changed, after that,
yeah,
we wouldn't be sitting at this table right now.
Yeah.
We would hate each other. And because of that, I have somebody that I know I can call no matter how bad anything ever is.
You got it, Dave.
That will be
I
at my
love you,
door.
buddy.
So that's one of the biggest takeaways from me from the 5-3-1, because I wouldn't have changed. You knew me.
Yeah.
I was on no fucking route of even being on a curve until that happened. But then it was like, oh, fuck. And then, we sat down, we talked, and it was a
well, thank you, Ben.
It was a great experience that, worked out extremely well for everybody, and
well, I think,
and not only that, it's worked out extremely well for every employee I've ever had since you.
Yeah. I when I walked in here, I can't tell you how much fucking pride I felt.
You should.
And the fucking front desk is wood. You know how awesome that thing looks? And the fucking things are made out of racks, the offices. And I was like, wow, and I guess maybe I'm at the age or whatever. Like, I don't ever feel jealousy. I want you to be successful. Like, this is what you wanted, man. And I know part of you loves the old days when we were in that fucking horrible office on 122. I enjoyed it too. You can't go back in the past, and that was fucking.
No, but we can talk about your bathroom. We have to talk about.
Well, that's what Traci showed me your fucking bathroom. I was like, motherfuckers, you have no idea what.
Yeah.
I used to shit with like a fucking Bible hold. Like, I hope something doesn't crawl.
We had when we expanded from 1 building to 2, which was
just big time, baby.
That's just
literally knocked out part of a wall.
Knocked out the wall. There, Jim overtook the bathroom on the other side.
First of all, that bathroom was fucking disgusting. Am I right?
Oh, it was bad.
I scrubbed that floor on my hands and knees like it was disgusting. It was black. There was shit in there. God. I didn't know. And then I just started hanging fucked up pictures in there. Because I wanted a place I could shit.
Nobody went over there, man. And for some reason, I had to go over there one day. It's like a year later, and there's like fucking eyeballs and shit cut out like some psychopathic killer.
I want people to watch me shit, man. Admire my Duke. But it was but I got, because that thing was there for probably a couple 6 months before I'm like, man, no one's using this thing.
No.
Fucking, I'm going to make this my own. Like, this would be my throne. Every man needs a good place to shit. And that's like, if I ever built my own home, all my bathrooms would have soundproof.
Yeah.
So not only can not everyone hear me do the fucking business, I don't want to hear anyone fucking. I want my place. What does Superman have? His fortress of solitude. I love dumping, dude. And now that I got reading glasses, I can read my fucking magazines. Fucking in peace. And you got kids. That's the only place you can go.
I know.
Everyone shut up.
And here's like a fucking gas station, man. It's like 3 fucking, it's all side by side. You're in there taking a shit. Somebody comes in and there's 2 shoes sitting right next to you. It's like, no, I can't. This is over.
See, the only way you can do, that's why airports are awesome. They're so anonymous. That's when you fucking blow it up. For weeks, you hold that in. You only let what you need to go out. And then when you're sitting in the fucking LA airport.
Oh, God, I can tell some stories on that one. We went on one trip, and Jim took his belt off before going through the metal detector. This was before he had to. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? I don't get this. And then goes in, takes a dump or whatever it was, and puts his belt back on outside his pants because his problem. No, you had to take the belt off.
Yeah.
So you didn't put it back on. So I couldn't figure out why in the fuck's you not putting it back on. You go in the bathroom, take your pants off, thread your belt back through your pants, and then put your pants back. And I'm like, this is fucking genius. You don't have to sit there and like reach behind your back and get a lat cramp.
That's why I like traveling with people. I'm like, dude, you hit my fucking belt back there for me. My son, like Mason, come on, buddy.
Oh no.
Dude, I'm like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I just got molested, dude. Have you been through TSA? They grabbed your fucking nuts now.
No.
They grab my nuts now. I'm like, what? Like, do I really fit the fucking profile, asshole? I get searched every fucking time. Not only searched, but wanded every fucking time I go through now. Every time.
I got a hip card. I pull out my hip replacement card.
I see my luggage gets, all my shit gets, how many people have TSA fucking caught? 0? It's a violation of our 4th Amendment. Illegal search and seizure. Anyway.
What else you got?
I got a bunch of good ones. I got an idea.
Yeah.
Let's talk about income tax and how that's fucking illegal.
Fuck that. I got to pay my own twice.
What?
I'm an employee.
Yeah.
Owner and employee.
Yeah, I got to do that too.
Yeah, ain't that some shit?
Yeah. Payroll.
Social Security twice? That's all fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. I gotta pay myself unemployment or whatever.
Which you'll never fucking get.
I know. I'm gonna fire myself. Motherfucker.
I don't think I actually, and I could be wrong, I don't think if you're an employer you can qualify for unemployment.
I'm pretty sure you can't.
You sure as fuck can pay into it.
Yeah. Yep.
How bad is your eyesight? Because I thought it would be kind of funny and cool to have him hold the phone and pick. Because there's a lot of nonsense.
I'll make it out.
Would you be able to read it if I gave you
Yeah.
the phone?
Yeah.
There's a lot of ones that would be one sentence and he could just kind of skim through them. So just scroll it up.
All right. Okay. Holy shit. Okay. Thoughts on Larry Wheels? I just know he's a good lifter. I don't really know anything about him. He's fucking strong. Dave, I'm a huge fan of you and the guest. Oh, here I am on right there. I'm a 20-year-old in college. What are your ideas on majoring in exercise science or something that's related.
That's a college discussion.
Yeah.
Actually, let set the phone down. Let Jim and I have a talk on this one because he comes from a
prodigious exercise science.
Well, no, but you come from a very high. Your parents were both teachers.
Yes.
And we're running into a really weird time with college education as far as, say, you go into exercise science. By the time you pour all that money into that degree, you're never going to be able to get back out what you put in.
Not even close.
So and now if you need a master's to be a strength coach, the odds of you ever being able to even pay back your student loans means you're going to be one of 10 people in the industry who are able to pull that much income.
I didn't even think about the
unless there's a scholarship, my advice is if you're bust your ass, get the best grade you can in high school, try to get the scholarships, whatever you can to be able to knock the grants to knock it down. But if you got to pull a loan for the full thing, this isn't like when I went to school and I could work 2-3 jobs to pay for everything.
Yeah. You could pay in a summer.
Yeah. I mean, I walked away with 0 student debt. Yeah. So I can say, yes, my degree was worth it. It took me longer than everybody else, but it was definitely worth it. But I'm not sitting on $100,000 worth of debt looking at a job that may only pay me $27,000.
Yeah. The only thing, if you can somehow get credits outside of a college, like a junior college, and then get them transferred.
There's an idea.
The only thing that I with the exercise science is, have you ever said it? You've said, what was your major?
Exercise science and nutrition.
Did they know anything, Dave?
No. I mean, nutrition, I took a lot of nutritional biochem. So yes, I did learn stuff there.
What I'm trying to
practically
say,
no.
Would you, if a kid just got whatever major and found ways of interning, got his foot in the door, right, of whatever major, got his foot in the door at a local college or something, and then ended up getting a GA there, now your master's is paid off. The internship is going to be worth more than the fucking degree.
If the internship is under somebody that teaches you how to do your own research. So you need to, now we're in a world where you have to vet information.
Yes. Now, like 99% of 100% of everything that you and I have learned has not been in the classroom.
Correct.
100.
Correct. But now we got 90% of all the information on social media, YouTube, WordPress, everything else. I see what you're saying.
As far as whether the information is worthwhile.
It's being junk, but my kids don't know how to disseminate between what they're finding on YouTube or what they're finding elsewhere.
That's why you intern.
They have to have somebody that knows how to teach them. It's more than just learning how to Google.
Yes. Yeah. But that's where the intern comes in, and that's where your own training comes in.
Yes.
And even when I was coaching at Kentucky, I was training people outside of it. So it was like this constant process of, and it wasn't because I wanted to learn. It was because this is what I love to do. That makes sense to you? I was like, oh, if I can train you, I don't give a shit. You pay me whatever. It doesn't have to be much. But I don't know if the exercise science degree, like you said, is going to be worth it in the end because of all the money. I think nothing is going to replace in any field hands-on and networking.
That's true. Because with the staff that we hire, I'm not going to say we don't look at the resumes, but it's what we look at last.
I have never in my life given a resume.
Yeah, I've only.
Hey, do you even know if I graduated college? All you have is my fucking work.
Yeah.
Did it matter?
Well, at the time, no. Because that was.
Yeah.
I knew you could fill the role that we were looking for better than anybody else that was out there, but with the people that we bring in now, it's pretty easy saying we had to. Replace a customer service. Rhonda's been here forever, so she's still here. I love her to death, but she needs an assistant, so we had to bring in another assistant for her. And within 5 minutes of speaking to this person, this is going to work or not.
Yep.
Just from a personality standpoint, I don't know where she went to school. I don't even know if she graduated high school. I don't fucking care. I care about how she treats that customer on the other end of the line. JL
was saying that as well about his.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of know Josh's degree because we really had to have somebody that knows film.
Yeah.
So it's like, fuck, we better find nobody. I don't know it. Here's where it matters. When the person hiring doesn't have a fucking clue,
Well, that's I was watching something on YouTube the other day about top 10 things millionaires do or something, and they do a really good job of animating while they talk.
Yeah.
So it's like a fun video, and my son kind of likes it, and it's like the value is I'm like, okay, wake up early, get your shit done, and then I watched something that company did on the only 3 exercises you need. I was like, they're fucking horrible. I'm like, wait a minute, everything else saying, because I don't know what the top 10 things for millionaires are.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I kind of do, but you know what I'm saying? And I was like, maybe you're fucking lying about everything else. Like, I don't know enough about film to know, like, hey, you're full of shit, dude.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a 5-through-1 dude who can understand, explain things fairly easy and gets everything. Does that make sense?
Yes. A
Always,
network.
Yeah.
Just exactly what you said.
And, but I don't know. I don't know enough. Like, maybe he's the guy. Maybe you just fucking hired John Davies.
Oh, jeez. Yes. Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that's where it starts getting hairy. And then,
see, I like the millionaire stuff because it's like, dude, go ahead and go to bed at 8:30 at night. Go to bed at 9 o'clock at night because I'm going to start working at 11 because all the real evil shit comes out after midnight.
yeah.
All the kids go home when the lights go on.
Yeah.
I start working when the lights go off. So when you wake up early in the morning, my shit's already done. So you're not getting the jump on me, motherfucker.
Well, that was someone asked me one time is, like, what time do you wake up? I'm like, I wake up when my eyes open.
That's when I get up.
I don't want to, I don't have this, and now for years I would wake up, especially when I was a kid, all through junior high and high school, I was always up early. Then when I went to the Air Force Academy, I was up early. And then I was like, you know what's awesome, Dave? Is fucking sleeping. And I'll never forget John Meadows, his first day that after he quit his job, his first day he woke up without an alarm. He's like, dude, I felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wake up when I wake up, which is not very late. But the good thing is if I can't sleep that night, I can sleep.
Well, here's the thing too, is you're creative. Your work is creative. So you could be laying there watching Netflix at 9 and be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And now you're on a roll until 2:30 in the morning. But what? Fuck, you're supposed to go to bed at 9 to get up at 6.
So I get some shit done at 4:30.
Yeah.
Drinking coffee.
Compliments towards 5-1 and stuff for you in there. So just read.
I can't read a fucking thing on here, dude. My eyesight's so bad.
No.
Yeah, I apologize.
Try those.
You're the.
See if those help you.
Are those
2.5.
Ooh.
Should be like a magnifying glass.
Let's see these bad boys. I'm gonna lose. Oh, there we go. Okay. Jim, check out. Okay. Sucks being old. I'm okay with it. Show me your friends, and I will show you where you're going on in life. Where you're going in life.
That's bullshit.
How do you feel about Brett Contreras putting down your lifting methods? I don't give a fuck. Why would I care? We average 470 yards a game rushing, by the way. Give a fuck. Okay. I got a newborn daughter, 8 weeks now, and trying to find time to train is very hard. Max of 3 days a week. My strength is clearly down. Any tips to make gains with the lack of sleep and time to train? What do you think, Dave?
Take a 4-day program, divide it over 8 days.
Yeah.
I think people really overthink this stuff.
The other thing is, like I tell everyone, is make your wife breastfeed so you don't have to do anything. I tell everyone that.
There you go. That works. And do what you can do.
And get your sleep when you can, because sleep at this point is probably a little more important than training. So I'd rather have them sleep a little extra and do a little less in the weight room at this point, because you're not going to do anyone any good exhausted. Yes. Holy cow. Okay. Is it necessary? Is going all in necessary to get an important type of perspective on life? What do you think, Dave? I'm
going to say yes, but it's conditional on responsibilities. And I want to say it's conditional on age, but that's not necessarily true. If you're, 18 to 24, 18 to 25, you don't really have a whole lot to lose.
Yep.
And you can really go at it. And it's still going all in is far more than what most people think it is. When you really The problem is when you start to go all in and then you become addicted to it like I was. And then slowly things come into your life that you can lose, but you don't give a fuck if you lose them or not.
It's like being an addict.
Yeah, that's where it becomes a problem. But I do think the only way you're going to ever know if you've gone too far is to go too far.
Yeah, it's you, like if people ask like leave 1 or 2 reps in the bank, well, you got to know where you fall off before you know where, like, listen, I know I got 2 more reps. So you have to fail a little bit. You have to fall off the edge a little bit.
And don't go all into anything you're not passionate about. I know passion is a word that gets thrown off, all over the place and redefined all different ways. But the way I put that is if you're going all in on something and you're at your breaking point and there's nothing else left and you still got to take one more step, work 1 more hour, do one more thing, the only thing that's going to get you there is the passion for what you're doing. Yes. Everything else will be justified away. Yeah. That's how our brain works. Like, I got to sleep, everything else. But that passion is like, fuck this. I'll do it. I'll figure it out later. So otherwise you're just not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. I think is going all in necessary to get an important type of perspective on life. I think for the majority of people on this, especially in this country, there's not a lot of hardship. So I think you need to put your eggs all in one basket and really go for something. I think when you're dealing with some people maybe 100 years ago where life was fucking tough, you didn't need to get that because your perspective was, fuck, I'm cold. I have to chop wood.
Yeah. Hardship's kind of been redefined. I think that, one of the questions was asking us, what do we think about the kids today or the parents of the kids today? And, it's going to fall back into the same thing of what did our parents think of us? It kind of rolls downhill, but the kids today don't have, first off, you're making a huge assumption that they're all a bunch of pussies to begin with, a huge assumption.
That was my big realization when I got that.
Because that's not true. The other thing is they are dealing with things you never had to deal with.
Yep.
You didn't have to, I had to deal with being bullied as a kid. All right. 5 kids making fun of me,
here's
beating
the thing
me
is,
up.
you got bullied.
Personally.
But when you went home, it was fine.
Gone. Yes. Now it's 24/7. It's text. It's all this other. So they're dealing with things that we really can't comprehend. So resilience is something that every parent should be teaching their children, and who to really give a fuck about listening to. I think that a lot of times they care too much about other people's opinions that don't matter.
Well, I think that's always been the case in a way.
Yes.
But I think with the social media, it's a different world, way different world. However, the same ideas. Like, people say, like, I tell my son, stay the fuck off social media. He's like, he doesn't have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, nothing. I'm like, good, stay off it as much as possible because it will bring you nothing but harm. At this point, you're not selling anything, right? No one gives a fuck what you're wearing today.
Yeah.
It's a very narcissistic thing. And then it just becomes this addictive, how many times I was in the airport the other day. I didn't see anyone doing anything other than looking at their phone. I was just looking around. It's like, I'm not looking at my phone. I just want to enjoy just watching people. And,
it's interesting. I don't want to throw out a Bible card, but it is the first motivational book ever written.
Yeah.
Virtues still matter.
Yeah.
10 Commandments still matter.
Yep.
All those things still matter. So if people just went and lived, according to those, it solves
the 10 Commandments didn't just, are not just central to Christianity. For the most part, people will agree, like, you know what, we probably shouldn't kill each other. We down with that? All right, put your hand in there. All right, good.
Everybody is.
That's obviously some of them are a little more religious oriented, but
I mean, they didn't just come from a rock.
No. Him and Moses. There's some basic tenets of life. The basic tenets of life. If you're going to live like in a civilized society, like I always hear people, I don't trust anyone. Well, you better not fucking drive because you're trusting that asshole to stay on the right side of the road when you're on the right side of the road. Mm-hmm. Right? Does that make sense? So I mean, we have a tremendous amount of trust, and that's in a civilized society, you don't all have to agree on some of the smaller stuff, but the big stuff. And the other thing is, I watched this. I think I probably mentioned this before. I watched this great documentary called the Other F Word. It's about fatherhood, and it talk to punk and hardcore musicians who now have kids. So at the beginning of their life, or, you know, when they were huge, they were anti-authority, fuck the people, fuck the police. And now they are the authority. So how do you wrestle with that? And this guy had this great quote. He said, you know, for all these years, I thought I was changing the world with my lyrics. And I realized it's all bullshit. I'm probably paraphrasing. He goes, then I had kids, and I realized the only way you're going to change the world is just raise good kids. So I have this thing, and I said, listen, if you want to really change the world, raise good kids. If you don't have kids, coach, teacher, or mentor. And if you don't want to do any of those things, keep your fucking hands off. And so at this point in my life, I'm like, listen, I got my family. I have the kids at my school that at the London high school that I try to help out as much as I can. And after that, I can't control everything. And so I see all these people screaming and crying and yelling and screaming. I'm like, you're not doing anything. Fucking take care of your shit, man. Take care of your, And another thing, talk about values and stuff. I always think it's important to give back. Just like you guys have, I can't
Live,
read
learn,
it.
pass on.
Everywhere. I think it's, financially, I'm able to give back to my community. I'm not rich, but we live simply enough where I don't have to work 12 hours a day. And I did that on purpose. I'm like, when the opportunity came up, when Matt Goodwin asked me, selfishly, I was like, nah, man, I'm fucking like my time alone. And I was like, what kind of person am I that tells people they need to give back, but I'm not willing to do the same thing? So it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I don't get paid. And I just think, so I put my money where my mouth is, and I wonder how many people are elected leaders, AKA servants, are really doing that. And that's why, like, as soon as someone proposes something, I'm like, well, are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
You fucking doing it? No. All right. Well, then I know they're fucking frauds. And it's just, and I'm not saying I feel superior. I feel better because I know I'm doing what I stand up for.
And it validates that you're giving back for the right reasons, where a lot of people are giving back for financial reasons, political reasons,
Well, I want, like, dude, it's awesome. Like, walking around town and people are like, thanks, man. I appreciate what you're doing. I'm like, I'm glad to help. Thank you. And so it's been nice. But it was a big thing. Is putting my values to a test. And I faltered a little bit for, first couple of days. I was like, it's a lot of time,
It is a lot of time.
And I was like, I have to stand up for what I believe in. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And but yeah.
As I told you before, the first time I saw you on the sideline coaching, this is when you were coaching and not, you were doing both. After all the years I've ever seen you in every situation I've ever seen you in, that was the best place I've ever seen you be.
I am the happiest I've been.
It was,
I'm where I should be. And it's funny because, you and I did all these different stuff. We go to all these big schools and talk to all these different things. And I'm like, you know what? High school. And it's the last place I think you can make a really good impression. Right? Think about the guys you had helping you out in the weight room when you were in high school. High school
is the last spot. Junior high, I think, is the most important.
Yeah.
But you still got a shot at high school.
Yep.
You still got, like you said, it's your last chance.
Yeah. And I had my greatest memories from, not my greatest memories, my greatest learning I had happen in high school. And that's when you can really, like, you send them off to college. It's like, well, I gave you something. Hopefully this can plant the seed. And it's not just about getting bigger and stronger and all that bullshit. Even doing the little things right. You talk about carrying over. Holy shit, does that matter?
Now, working from home and working with Juliet, have you guys hired anybody to help you?
Oh yeah.
So is there somebody in the house now?
No.
Just the fulfillment?
We definitely have fulfillment. We got rid of that a long time
ago.
And then we hired design companies. We just, she would be able to tell you a lot more than this. I mean, obviously we have outside accountant and someone who does all that stuff. And then we have design. We just hired this past year because of the tax breaks.
Yes.
We invested every cent that we got from the tax breaks, and it was massive. I told you we went from 41% to 20% tax rate. We were getting fucking raped by the federal government.
Well, you can't afford to do things. I mean, we get hit the same way. There's so many things you want to do, but you can't afford to do it.
Because they need a new fucking car.
Yeah.
And God forbid you actually, so now and then we did something with, SEO bullshit and all this other stuff. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't work out, whatever, we didn't know. So then we have I think we have 3 or 4, I don't know, like when I first started and when Ken first started, kind of like that, we hire separate companies that are not technically employed by us. I can't remember what the exact, how you
kind of like permanent, non-legal permanent contract.
Yeah. So but it's been wonderful for us because it gives not everything falls on her and I anymore.
Yes.
And they do their job better than I would. Like, I don't know. I could only come up with so many. Like, imagine if me and you just had to think up T-shirt designs.
Oh, I know.
Like, just put a circle on there.
We did.
Make it a square this time. Fuck yeah.
So how has it changed the dynamic? Because there's a lot of people who are going to be watching this that have home-based businesses, and you're kind of, you don't know it, but you're like at the brink of almost not being a home-based business anymore. It's getting close, maybe a few years, but you do have the ability to now, as technology increases, to not have that happen. To keep it there.
Yeah.
But your dynamic between her and yourself has had to have changed as you bring other people.
Yeah. Well, when we first started, I was doing most of everything, and then I realized, because she had run a business for so many years and very successful at the gym, she said, well, let me help out. And I was like, all right, you sure? Like, you sure you want to do this? And so she basically does all the business side. I handle all the, I call myself the talent. I'm like, I don't know anything about that. She handles the scheduling of all the stuff for the most part. Except when Dave calls. He actually got my phone number. But I don't answer my emails anymore. Like, I don't do any of that stuff. And I know it sounds like a dickhead thing to do, but I don't like checking my emails. I don't know. I don't really check Instagram or Facebook. It just feels like and it has nothing to do with me being a dick. It's just like, it's like a soul-sucking experience being on social media. And so everything gets funneled to her, and then we work stuff out. But the most important thing is we're able to separate business from personal. So we work an X amount of part of the day, and then after that, for the most part, it's done. And it hasn't affected our private life at all. And part of it is we live so far below our means that we can handle some stress. And part of it is we never take off more than we could chew, which, again, you talk about taking risks. It's like, well, our risk is this going to add more fucking stress to my life? Mm-hmm. That I'm not willing to deal with. And that's, so we're never going to, we could easily grow bigger, but at what cost to me and my wife? Like, I don't want to not be her best friend anymore.
It's a big cost.
And I don't care. Like, I'll just make less money, and Ellen Cosgrove said something to me. Talk about having perspective on life. He said something to me. He's like, everyone's asking, how can I make more money? He goes, I'm figuring out a way to make the same amount by doing less. and it's not about that. It's about, maybe we should redefine how we're looking at stuff. And we had, I think the last 2 years have been just fucking massive for us. And part of it is we're getting better with all the business bullshit. And part of it is we're spending less. And, we have our roles, I think, a little better defined. So I think the one thing my wife and I have is we were both divorced. And so I think after the divorces, we kind of knew what we were looking for. And I've been with her for 9 years now. I've never fought with her one time. Because because my house, besides we work there, like that's my sanctuary.
Yeah.
I don't want my sanctuary to be fucking horrible. So we're like, is this really that big of a deal? I'm like, let's just work this out. And to her credit, she's the one that, I'll let you, she's the one who's got all the patience and stuff. But if I'm married to her, that's kind of how we work dynamically.
Yes.
It wouldn't work if she was always at my throat, then I would just be at her throat. And then what's the fucking point? So she's the one that's probably a little more mature about, dealing with me. And she's always like, listen, she's never nagged me to do anything. She's like, I know you're not going to do it. So what's the fucking point? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Then we're just going to be upset with each other. She's like, you're just not going to do it. She's like, I'll ask you if you really want to do something. You'll say no. I'm like, all right. But I think that goes, just having kind of a more, It's hard with, you know how it is, but you work with Traci. It's fucking hard, man.
It's hard. It's a hard, that's why I asked the question, because it's a struggle and everybody's struggle is going to be different.
Yeah.
You know, we're at the point now where we don't have to bring work home.
Yeah.
You know, if I do any work at home, it's creative work, or if it's work at home, it's meetings that we can't have, you know, while we're here.
Yeah.
But we finally got to a point where that wasn't that issue, where it was like just 24. And during the startup time, there was no choice. You know,
yeah,
it was 24/7.
That's a little different.
You know, it's,
but you're able to, I mean, you have other people can do jobs now.
Yes. And I think that, you know, those listening that are just starting a company need to understand you never get away from it.
No,
you know,
like we, for 4 years, we packaged everything up. Now, I'm not just here. I'm talking at home, in my house.
Yeah.
You talk about, we can't go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't even leave for a weekend to do something. Good job, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
That was his penis, by the way. He didn't even stand up. So then, you know, but just having that shit off of our plate, you know, boxing up 50 books every day and then going to the, you know, we did that. The USPS, dump them off.
It's terrible.
It's a pain in the ass. And I'm very, like, it was awesome because you're like, you know, I got all these orders out, but there goes half your day printing off labels. Nothing that you didn't know before. And I was glad because all the work I did here, I'm like, man, it's fucking easy. Just print off labels. And then now I'm like,
yeah, it's like, fuck, I gotta do this again.
But we were going to have to, you know, the way we were going to be able to probably, I should say this, we thought we were going to have to do that again, but we just outsourced again a bunch of that shit. We outsourced everything. And even for whatever that cost us, it's not, even if we saved 20 grand, is it worth 20 grand?
Well, in the long run, it's going to, I mean, it's kind of a little off topic, but business related. In the long run, it's going to allow you to scale better.
Yeah.
So you can bring it in to save that 20%, or you can keep it fulfilled out and sell 30% more.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a weird dichotomy because it's sometimes you got to take that hit to be able to move forward.
Yeah, that's what we did with Amazon, and because they steadily take a bigger and bigger chunk. My big thing with Amazon was probably what you had to deal with when you first branched off. You were not Westside, you were not Elite FTS or Dave Tate. You were Louis Simmons Westside. So when you get everything fulfilled by Amazon, now no one goes to your page.
Yes.
So when we release stuff now, we just release on our website for about a year, and then we put it on Amazon. So hey, so we have a central hub of where you're going to get our stuff. And I think people get so enamored with Amazon. It's a great thing. I mean, it's the biggest online mall in the world, but you lose your identity. Now, let's say 10 years down the line, Amazon decides to jack up the prices. Mm-hmm. Now, what are you going to do? Now they have full control over everything. Now you're fucked. You have no home base. Now you have to give them all your money.
The bigger thing than that, I mean, outside of that can put you out of business, is as soon as you lose your identity, you're done.
Yeah.
Because that's your only competitive advantage.
Yep.
You know, anybody can write a program, anybody can write a book, anybody can duplicate anything, you know, but they can't duplicate you.
No. And it's just, you know, we talk about, you know, when Louis passes away, Westside's done. And, you know, it may hold on for a year or two, or someone may try to, but it's, you know, Louis is Westside Barbell through and through. And I can't imagine that place without him. So, you know, that's where you know, is Elite FTS bigger than you? Mm-hmm. You know, you have to is it? I don't know. You like to you want to think, but
I like to think that it is, but the reality is it's probably even.
Yeah. See, like it, you know, I come to grips with this. Like I thought, you know,
let me step back. Before social media, I could answer the question easier and say, yes, it is.
Okay.
Because the people associated and the team members had more prominent voices.
Okay.
With the delusion or when you dilute, you know, of social media, then all those other voices that used to just scream, here's Elite FTS. Yeah. They're stifled because there's so many other voices that the only voice that's really standing the most prominent is mine. Yeah. You know, so it's now a matter of how to get the other voices to come back up again.
I wrestled with the thought of, every man, woman, and child wrestles with their own mortality, and everyone wants to be immortal in some way, right? Does that make sense? Like I want to live on in some way. And I started thinking, I'm like, if my boys don't want anything to do with this, I'd be happy if I never sold another book after I died. As long as, does that make sense? Like I don't have this massive need for immortality, because I always tell people there's only two people everyone knows on this earth. It's Jesus and Hitler. Like, get over yourself.
Just don't leave them dead.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't have this massive need to be remembered outside like my wife and my kids. I just, because I know, so many great people have died and lived and died before me. I mean, I don't know them. Can you name all the presidents, Dave?
You know how many great people have died that nobody knows of?
Yeah.
And people want to, I went on a rant about this, I don't know, months ago. I get it all confused anymore about legacy. Like, if I don't give a fuck about my legacy, I'm going to be dead.
Yep.
Well,
here's the thing. When you go to Wikipedia and it says the Middle Ages, it's 5 paragraphs. You mean people lived and died in the Middle Ages? Right? I mean, it's fucking crazy. And, so I don't have this narcissistic idea that this is going to live on. And if it dies when I die, man, I'm fucking cool with it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have that legacy. And I think maybe when you first started, maybe like, hey, I passed this to here, and you're like, man,
I think we all want to try to do something bigger than ourselves. And then the older you get and the more responsibility you get, you see it's like you said, it's more important to be more to the people that you're closer to.
Yeah, I want
they matter.
I thought, like, if my books still sell and that gets pays for vacations for my kids occasionally, I'm like, fucking do it. I don't give a shit.
I mean, you don't want to be, you don't want to be on your hospital deathbed with a nurse.
No, that's why I hope I die before my wife. I'm a selfish fuck.
What else you got? Any training stuff? Or something just whacked?
Can't read that one. How to start with 531 after a 4-year layoff from lifting.
Oh my God, I can answer that. I don't even know the program. Well, I kind of do.
Just work up, find out what you can kind of do for 5 or 8 reps that you don't fucking shit on. Set that as your training max and go.
The same way you would if you never did it before.
Yeah. So just figure out, and start light. Just follow the principles, man. You'd be surprised at how light our kids lift compared to how strong they are.
Here's one more for Jim. You Dave and JL talked about this, but
All right.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from Westside through your time there?
Training wise, definitely.
If you don't mind reiterating the question too.
What's that?
And if you don't mind
what is the greatest lesson I learned from my time at Westside Barbell? Training wise, it was maybe said a little more than actually practice. Would train optimally, not maximally. Right? It was something that I think Mel Siff probably. I don't know if it always went on. It doesn't always have to go on, but in the broad scheme of things,
it went on there more than people think.
Yeah.
If you were there,
Well, there's a mystique about the place, and then there's the reality about the place. And we just kind of go in. We have, when we were lifting, it was fun. Like, it wasn't everyone killing each other, right? Imagine most of the time on Fridays, it was fucking laughing. You suck. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I used to call Dave Bocephus. He'd get mad at me. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm just calling him Bocephus. Everyone call him Bocephus. And it was just fucking stupidity. And so, occasionally, and the thing about lifting with experienced lifters, you could fuck around a lot. When it came time to set, everyone dialed in. We did it. You got up, then called him an asshole. And the thing I remember most, there's a lot of things, but there was a great time when I was with me, JL, and Dave were lifting, and it was Wednesday because we were benching. And then we did dumbbell inclines, and then we did them on a dumbbell decline sit-up bench. And Dave lay down on the bench. He's like, all right, hand me the dumbbells. Or, he said, and JL's like, do you want me to count your reps too? Or you personally? He made it seem like he was Dave's personal trainer. And
he said,
fucking let it go.
He said, do you want me to show you how I show my clients to kick those dumbbells up?
but it was one thing after another.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't remember all the trainings per se, more so than I remember the bullshit that went on and the fun stuff that went on. And, that's what I kind of cherish the most. And then it's funny. That's what I remember about football. That's what I remember about most of the stuff. Even when I spend time with my boys and stuff, I don't remember all the, just remember the little stuff, the fun stuff. Just working here, I remember Dave and I boxing stuff up on a Friday after squat day, just me and him. Fucking, there's no air conditioning. Two shirtless dudes. It was the gayest thing I've ever seen. Hairy, fucking sweaty. It's Friday. We're trying to box shit up because I think Tim came around 3 o'clock or so, 2 or maybe 4, trying to get all the packages out, just sweating all over the cardboard. Hope this one's right.
The receipts got little drops
yeah,
of water.
That's what I was saying. The tape's not sticking
because
the cardboard's, and that's what I remember most, man. I don't, whatever. Like, what about with the weight room? Like, I don't care about it. It was that. That's what I, So,
as I'm going through and I'm writing these things on Instagram because people are asking how they can come out here and train. So I'm going through this whole rigmarole, of why I don't want people to come out here and train, or because it's what my go-to answer is you have to be able to justify why your time's worth more than the time with my wife and kids.
Yep. Yeah,
right?
good luck.
Once you do that, then we can talk. But then I keep adding to it. And the one thing that was going through my mind to add to the next segment was during my entire time at Westside, and this will overlap with some of the time that Jim was there as well, I didn't know the full names. I mean, first off, my last post I wrote about how far everybody drove. I mean, we were driving, say, from London, so that's 30 minutes. And then you had Chicken Hawk driving, 2.5 hours. You had, Size Master driving 2 hours. You had Bayless driving, an hour and a half. You had Amato driving, an hour. And the list just goes on and on. You had Gritter driving, 45 minutes. And, everybody was driving within an hour and a half, 2 hours to be able to get to the gym. And while I was putting all this out, I realized, fuck, I didn't know any of these guys' real names.
Yeah, everyone had nicknames.
It's like Fuzz Dog, Chester, Big Mike, and I remember I had to get some duct work done in my house because we were taking the heater out.
So you didn't know it was Jeff Adams?
Yeah, I'm like, fucking who? Gritter does this. So I called Louie. I'm like, what the fuck is Gritter's name? And he said, Gritter. I'm like, no, what's his company? I need some help. And he didn't know. And I had to call somebody else. Like I had to call, Gabe, and there was like 5, and then there's Kiana, which was Bob. It's like, then I realized, holy fuck, I don't know anybody's real name in here. I don't know if they're married. I don't know if they have a girlfriend. Fuck, I don't know if they're gay. I don't know if they're straight. But I know what their squat is. Yeah. I know what their bench is.
I know what their cues need to be.
And I know when we're training, it takes about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Then I started thinking about, holy fuck, look at all the little petty drama that goes on in every weight room today where everybody's in everybody else's business about little stupid tiny shit that I couldn't get involved in anybody's business because I didn't even know their fucking real name. Hell, I didn't even know they lived 2 hours away. I just knew they had 860 squat and they needed 5 chain per side to be able to get to 9, and that's the kind of stuff that, I look back on and remember. I'm like, wow, that was kind of fucked up that I didn't know that. But then I look at it and think of that's the genius of Louis Simmons that people don't ever see because he created that environment.
Yes. Yeah.
Out of a bunch of fucking meatheads that didn't want to listen to a word that he said. And that's a coach, man. People can say whatever they want. As much as he pissed everybody off, that fucking guy was a coach.
Yeah, there's a coaching, he was kind of like Phil Jackson, who's the famous basketball coach. He obviously had to teach some fundamentals here and there, but is about bringing the people together. And having them work together that necessarily probably didn't want to be together all the time.
That's a great comparison.
And, of course, now Lou's like, I'm fucking Phil Jackson, motherfucker.
Yeah. He's like, fuck all these people.
Who's Phil Jackson?
Yeah.
Basketball. If they did 100 reps of tricep pushdowns. their jump shot would go better.
Exactly.
Get them out of the bell squat. Do some marching.
What else you got?
Speaking of Westside, somebody said, talk about the time you guys met. And,
Jim and I met?
Yeah. And then
That's a good one.
took from each other's training maybe earlier on because you guys had different backgrounds.
Well, I'll say this. When I got at first exposed to Westside, I obviously read Louis. And, most of his articles pretty much say the same, depending on what he's writing. They're the same, he outlined the articles. To me, it was pretty simple, but it wasn't until Dave was on deepsquatter.com like, oh, okay. So you just do a couple of those then. Okay. You do some dumbbell work. That's fine. That it made things so much easier for me. So that's my first. So from that, once I read his Q&A on Jason Burnell's old site, it made things much, much easier for me to understand because it was, Louis has, I call it, like imagine taking an entire book and you throw all the words against the wall, then you have to stand back and look at it, and the words that mean something need to stand out, but you need to know how to decipher that. It's kind of how Louis talks and how Louis writes. If you don't know what you're supposed to be looking for, it's just a big jumbled mess. And I think that's especially maybe true now more so than back in the day, but so Dave kind of cleared that up for me. And then, so for, I don't know how long, maybe a year, Dave would post sporadically. I think he would send you shit and then you would send it back and then he would post it up. And I don't even know if there was any articles up by you. There might've been one or two, but whatever. And then I got to University of Kentucky. I was doing a GA there. And Dave was brought in as a consultant after, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And I had known Dave. I was pretty excited about meeting him. And Dave drove down, because it's south, obviously, drove down. And I can only imagine, because the amount of shit that I've seen over the years, and he's obviously incredibly suspicious of strength coaches because everyone talks this. And so I think he was finally relieved that someone actually lifted weights. And wasn't so we went out to dinner and I'm sure we talked about a lot of stuff I don't want to talk about at dinner, and but I'm sure it had to do with Diana Ball. And just watching him coach the squat and watching him do the presentation and stuff, it was not, I wanted some of the other especially Kevin and stuff, I wanted them to learn and stuff. It was really cool. But then, once Dave was not in coach shape. Coaching shape is different than regular shape. Is you have 8 hours to 12 hours and you have to be coaching sporadically, and it starts wearing on you after your second or third group. Well, by the third or fourth group, Dave was basically, dead tired. And so if anyone's ever spent time strength coaching, you start to go delirious. And so, to make a long story short, Dave was exhausted, and we're all kind of exhausted, but Dave much more so than others. And Dave goes to sit down in a chair, and my buddy's like, "No, that's the phone sex chair. Get up." He goes, "Look underneath, right? There's a piece of tape underneath the chair." I'm like, "No, that's the phone sex chair. You don't want to sit in there. That's where we have phone sex." And Dave, what the fuck's wrong with you? And I think. Just real quick, I'll explain this. And so I had,
Yeah, you might want to.
What's that?
You might want to explain the chair.
Well, I'm not going to go because my parents might watch this. But anyway, Dave's like, I think at that point, he's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's a little fucking weird. And to be involved in football or powerlifting, you got to be a little fucked up. And I didn't do that to impress anyone. It wasn't even me that said it. It was the other assistant coach who's like, dude, no. And to make a long story short, after that, Dave had asked me to submit some stuff to the Elite FTS at the time. And I tell people this all the time. I had no idea what was going to happen or anything in my life, but I had already written articles because I knew I wanted to write and I knew I loved training. So you talk about preparation meets opportunity. And Dave's like, yeah, and I was like, really? You want some articles? Like, I don't, So I was able to give him shit right away, some articles and stuff right away. And he gave me that opportunity. And I tell people all the time, if I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that when Dave asked, I was ready. And how thankful I am that you asked, and I did all the work. And but then a couple months later, you were hosting the Great IPA Nationals, and you asked, like, dude, fuck. And I'm like, I don't know if I should do a meet. And you're like, just fucking do it. So me and Kevin went and did the meet, and after that meet, I was part of the Q&A. I had no idea, and I don't think Dave had any idea either.
No, things just kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
It's I had done several consultations. I don't know what you really want to call them, before Jim reached out for this one. And I was always kind of hesitant because it was usually the majority of them before this were with Louis. So it was just kind of me being a fly on the wall, listening to Louis talk, and then kind of like squaring things up afterwards, saying, look, here's a way to make this really, really easy, and then you can look back on what Louis said and see the more complex nature of what's in there. So I'm not going to say I dumbed down what Louis was saying, because by no means was I saying everything he was saying. I was just saying the most important parts in the easiest way I could. And usually it would be, speaking to 4 or 5 coaches and maybe a couple athletes, and that was about it. This one, I go down and meet Jim and a couple of the other coaches for dinner. I'm like, okay, these guys are kind of like fucking meatheads. This is going to be pretty cool. I like this, man. And then they're like, well, you're going to train the guys. And I'm like, wow, this is fucking awesome. Because I always wanted to be a strength coach. That's what I went to school for. I'm like, fuck, I'll be a strength coach for a day. After the first session, I'm like, holy fuck.
Yep, you got 5 more, buddy.
And then I thought I was done. And I'm like, well, okay, let's get some lunch and we'll sit down and talk about training. And it was like, no, we got 2 other groups.
Yep.
And the first one, I'm like, come on. I'm all, by the last one, I'm like, motherfuckers, tuck your goddamn elbows, you piece of lazy shit. And I mean, it's just, I'm probably more on point than normal, but anyhow, that's when we went back. And as soon as they said that thing about the chair, and I knew Jim's background was his education, I believe his degree is in history or English.
English, yeah.
And, his passion is in strength and conditioning, and he was a strength coach, and he's a walk-on Division I football player. So as soon as I heard that, I'm like, I'm going to hire this guy somehow. It's just, this is the exact type of person that I need for my company, because I have to step out of the training aspect and focus just on how to run a business, because I had no clue what I was doing, but that's a scary thing when training's your whole life, and that's what you love. And that's why you're even in business.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to pass this torch on to somebody that has a passion for it. And even if it's going to be different, it's still going to be quality content. It's still going to be good. And, the humor and everything that came with it was just all kind of a bonus. The work ethic was a bonus. So there are a lot of other things that were a bonus.
The funny thing about the humor shit was it was never ever intended, but it got to the point where it would be like you start going a little crazy. And you're like, I need to entertain myself a little bit.
Oh yeah, because they're crazy.
And the best answer I ever read from Dave, I could tell this was back in the deep squatter days, was someone asked him how to bench faster. He's like, just fucking push harder. Like, I was like, God, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, that's a coach right there. Yeah. I don't know, just fucking push harder, dude. But it was like a guy at the end of his rope, like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And then it just started getting where things were more personable on our website than we were the only real website, but things were not just training related. It was like you got to know people a little bit more, and it wasn't fake. I think a lot of this shit, because you saw this, multiple times throughout the day via questions and stuff and articles. I think it was a little more real. We didn't need to put on a facade. No. Like I think people do these days a little bit, and I understand because it's social media, but
I don't think we knew how to.
No, it's just like, I don't know. There
were too many questions, there's too many. And please don't misunderstand. It's not like we sat down at the Q&A and there was 800 Q&As that came in. Some days there'd be like 3 or 4, so it wasn't like this instant thing. It's like all the work would just drive more questions and drive more questions and drive more questions, and then more work, more questions, more questions, more work, and kind of like a spinning wheel. And it did allow me to step away and focus on learning how to run a business, which, from that standpoint, it sucked. I'm not going to lie to anybody. That part sucked. It took me a long time and a lot of frustration to be able to grasp that the only way I was going to make a difference in this company was to be able to actually learn how to do this part. And because nobody else was going to care enough about this part than I was.
That is, yeah.
And that, baby. that was a big realization. And I still today read like an hour of training shit, which I really don't need to, but I still like it. It's still kind of ingrained in there that I like to see, what's being reinvented. Nothing's actually really new, but how people put different spins on things sometimes, especially with the younger generation. Sometimes people will say things a little bit different than you wouldn't think of to be able to get through.
That's why I like reading form stuff, the cues. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll fucking use that cue.
Yeah,
see if that works. And then it has nothing to do with advanced recovery techniques ever.
No.
It's always like, okay.
If you're training them optimally, they're really not going to need a lot of advancement, especially kids.
No, that's why. But that's where I kind of with the training stuff. And then what I do? I read the same books over and over and over and over again because I can't get that shit ingrained in my head enough. So people are always like, I read 3 books. I'm like, well, did you learn anything? Did
James
you actually
Smith told me that?
What's that?
James Smith told me he's only read 3 books, and I think there were 3 of the Russian manuals.
Oh, I'm sure they were Russian. They're probably on Russian too.
And that guy, bar none, is one of the most intelligent people I know when it comes to training.
Well, I can't. I'm not smart enough to read a book in a week and ingest it all. Like I need to reread the same stuff over and over again. And you're gonna miss something, but more importantly, you're gonna get stuff ingrained in you. And I think that's super, super important. Then the other thing is, as we all know, if you spend all your time on the internet, you're going to read so much shit, you're not going to know any better.
It's just diluted. I'm not going to lie. Most of the stuff I write anymore are just microblogs. It's under 2,200 characters. It's short, to the point. It's not in depth at all. It's not super training.
Yeah.
But I do believe anybody that's coming in the industry, even though I've made many jokes about super training being better used as a one board than an actual education tool, should go through and have the discipline to take as long as it takes to be able to get through the whole thing. If it's a year, 1 year, 3 years, because it becomes their bullshit detector. Like I told JL when he was out here last week that anybody who's serious about this industry should be able to take any training methodology, if it's 5-3-1 or Ben Pollock's Think Big or Swede's 5th Set or, Westside Barbell, and be able to say, okay, this is block, this is conjugate, this is linear, this is hit. They should be able to know what category, or this is like a hybrid of these two, but they don't, because all they do is focus on these, the actual programs.
Yes.
But they don't focus on what those people like yourself have learned to be able to develop that program. Now, if all they want to do is get strong, just buy the fucking program. I mean, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a coach and you want to be somebody that's going to really take their time to advance their career and their profession, they need to be able to understand those building blocks, because all you guys read all that stuff, mastered all that stuff to be able to have that foundation that creates what you use to test with the athletes that you have.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have anything really to add to that. I think that's
that's better than any exercise science degree. Bar none.
And it's like I still go back. I still think you can get your foot in the door in this industry without having a degree, and especially if you want to coach, like do what I'm doing or do.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
Like you're not going to learn how to coach or get any kind of contacts in a classroom. Like I'm talking learn how to coach. Like, hey guys, everyone sit the fuck down. We're gonna, and then commanding the room. You know how hard that is for some people. You know how many all those years we did seminars. You know what? People think about this when we were in high school or junior high. When they're like, "Listen, you got a 5-minute speech," you'd be like shitting your pants. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, "Dude, we got 8 hours. That's all we got. Fuck. All right. I guess we can cover the bench today."
Yeah.
And you give people 8 hours, they're going to get up there and stumble around a little bit. And I think that's a huge thing. I know we harped on that already in the beginning, but
no. But every time you step in to train those kids, that foundation was laid stepping into a classroom, teaching or giving a seminar, or working with the kids in Kentucky.
Yeah, but I just think there's more to coaching. And we said this before, than just knowing how to program and don't be so quick to think you're not the reason why you fucking suck. How about that? Take some fucking responsibility. The other thing, this has nothing to do with anything, but I live by this motto. It may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Well, that's 100% true.
You know, like, oh, so-and-so did this. I'm like, yeah, it sucks, dude, but you're going to have to deal with it, right? So let's fucking figure out how to deal with it. So.
That's the mark of a business owner, a leader, a coach. You're never the reason why. You're never the success, but you're always the reasons why something went wrong.
So let's,
And you have to assume that, that just comes with the territory. And as being somebody that's fucked up a lot for 21 years, you get used to it. It's like, okay, yeah, my fault. Well,
it becomes easier to be like, yeah, I fucked up. The first couple of times, like, no, you get a little defensive about it. And I'm like, you know what? That was my fault.
Yeah, you want to pass the blame. And then the more you do that, if then you encourage the ability for your athletes or your employees to maybe reach out a little bit and try something that they might make a mistake on, but they're cool with it because they know they're not going to get drilled because they made a mistake.
That's a huge thing. Huge. I didn't even think about that. I admit I fuck up all the time with the kids. I'm like, listen, I screwed this. We have to be going.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say if you could rotate more.
Oh, there we go.
All right, what else you got?
There's a couple on this actually. So there was a whole misconception with Dave and Mark Rippletoe about squat cues or whatever.
What was misconceived? I was pretty clear about that.
You were clear. I'm saying that was just something we talked about. Is there anything that you guys disagree on, training wise? Because you guys both trained with Louis. So you guys pretty much see everything the same, or is there anything that you guys see different?
I would say I don't give a fuck how people squat. I don't, because
he's focused more on powerlifters, you more on athletes.
Yeah, well, you have to understand that I learned something from Ethan Reeve. He's like, listen, I'm looking for about 80% right, as long as they're not getting hurt and everything looks about how it should look. I'm happy, okay? Because the purpose of the exercise is not to lift the most weight right at this point. The purpose is to train the legs, ass, whatever. The other thing is people that if me and Dave are training together, then we can perfect our squats. You're living in some fucking utopia, communist bullshit, socialist crapshoot if you think that one coach and 65 fucking kids everything's going to be perfect, okay? That's just, it's not going to happen. So you look for a couple good things that you want to looking for in the squat, back position, knee position, stance, whatever it may be. And some kids squat better, higher bar, lower bar, hands wider. I don't care. If it gets the kid to squat correctly and he gets, without him getting hurt, and he has the things that, we have kids box squat that can't squat. You know why? Because it's not important that if he box squats or not. I just want him to do something. Does that make sense to you, Dave?
Yeah.
So I think when and plus some kids are taller, some kids are shorter, some kids feel more comfortable. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm never going to be tied down and lose my shit over something I can't control because the kid wants to put the bar a little lower, a little higher, or his stance might be a little bit different or something, or has to squat on a box or has to do this and that. I just don't care. And I think you can't be, now if it was me and 30 other coaches, yeah, it's a little bit different. I think we could, be a little better with it. But I just think that the world is in such a disconnect between what you read on the internet and fucking reality. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that a couple things with this question is the context is not established. All right. I don't have the skill set to train the athletes he has. All right. Could I develop that? Yeah, but it would take time and I really don't want to.
That's the key.
I don't have the patience. I really don't. My skill set is actually working with, maybe a total of 2,000 total lifters in the entire fucking country. The top power lifters that I can find weak points on, because that's just been the realm that I've lived in my entire life. Now, with that established, I'm sure over the years, there's been many conversations that we've had about training where we've disagreed on different situations or different modalities, be it prowler work for a football player. Should they use the high handles, low handles, whatever fucking point you want to make with it. And then I say why, and then he'll give me the answer. I'll say why, and he'll give me the answer. Then, oh yeah, you're right. or that's how the real world works. The real world doesn't work like somebody makes a fucking post on Facebook that says pushing the prowler with a high pull or with high handles is fucking worthless. And then 20 other coaches say, oh, you're bullshit. You're full of shit. If Jim's got a coach that he brings in as an assistant that's helping him during the summer for a camp, and the kid says, hey, the high thing, that's the way to go, and Jim disagrees, he's going to say, you know what, I disagree. Kid's probably going to say, why do you disagree? Jim will say, well, the hip angle's not where it needs to be, or I don't like the shin angle, or whatever it is. Kid's going to say, oh shit, never thought about that. Or vice versa. Then Jim walks away learning. That's how the real world works. It's called, check this out, learning. But that's how real coaches communicate. Real coaches communicate like you see during our summit. You know, if Jim's talking to Buddy or Milo or, you know, any of those people, you know, after they get through making fun of each other for not seeing each other for 6 or 7 years, I'm sure a question's going to pop up where they're going to say, Jim, you know, what luck have you had with this scenario? And then Jim will put it out there. And even if they think he's full of shit, they're not going to say, look, I think you're full of shit. They're going to listen to him. They're going to respect him. Then they're just going to go back and not use it. That's the real world. That's called, check this out, respect. You know, it's a couple things that don't happen online.
The thing I will say is, you know, I've done a number of seminars with Mark. I have never seen a coach get a person to squat faster, more correctly than him. And I'm talking people like, if you saw him, Dave, you're like, dude, let's just trap bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
And within 5 minutes, you're like, gee, like you turn around, you're like, man, how did you fucking fix that? So he's got, however he does it, I'm not exact, you know, he does cues and stuff. The way he's able to put people in position is unbelievable. Now, it doesn't mean if someone wants to squat a different way is wrong. He's just good at coaching what he believes, and he's able to do it. And it doesn't, to me, I just don't, it's such a non-factor to me. It'd be like you have a white hat on, I have was my black or gray or something. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about it, like, I never even thought about asking Dave about his white hat. I didn't think. Yeah.
I think my takeaway with Mark was that he's been doing it for 30 years, so apparently he's doing something right.
Yeah.
You know, anybody that lasts for 30 years, like Ken Leisner's, what is he now, like 98 years old? Yeah. Sorry, Ken. But don't tell me HIIT training doesn't fucking work. Yeah. I mean, the guy's still got athletes driving 2 hours to train with him, you know, in his freaking garage that he's making better over and over and over again. And he'll still have his critics the same way everybody else will.
When I was at EFS, Dr. Ken would call, and it was awesome because he would tell me all these great old stories, just fantastic about the weeders, like shit that I never even knew. I was like, oh my God, because he's come from New York, mm-hmm. and he was around before powerlifting ever started. And to make a long story short, he's got to be in his 70s now, and he's like, I asked him something, and he's like, listen, man, someone's like, hey, Dr. Ken, this guy was talking shit about you or something online. And he showed it to me, and he goes, well, who is this guy? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, well, why are you showing me this? I don't fucking know.
Exactly.
I don't even know who this is.
Yeah.
Why do you think I care? And it was like a real genuine moment. He's like, I don't know what this fuck. Like, why should I care what he fucking thinks? And it was like an old man moment. Like, I'm all right with it.
Yep.
So
I try to drive the same point home in a different way where, you know, we could not even be doing this, but let's say somewhere in some school, there's somebody talking about 531. You don't fucking know this is going on, but it's going on right now. And they fucking are bashing the shit out of it. You don't give two shits about it because you're indifferent to it because you don't even know what's going on.
Not only that, but I have found, and this happens to be in life, is the people who scream the loudest and who are just the most vocal are the most unsure about what they believe in and who they are. Okay, so that's like a good litmus test. When you see someone yelling and screaming about something, whatever this is, I kind of feel bad for them. Like, man, you don't even believe in what you are and what you believe, because if you did, you'd just be like, you know what? I believe. I'm not saying that you're not right, but I believe in who I am and what I'm doing, and I'm okay with you not liking that because I know my shit works. And that's like, are you going to tell this London football, the shit doesn't work. You're going to you tell our opponents. Huh?
Tell the fans.
Yeah. It's fucking 50 points a game, and most of our players didn't play past the second quarter. Freshmen were out there in the second quarter. Freshmen. All right, let's see what we got, boys. So,
sixth graders.
Yeah.
God.
Well, I asked him, like, do you think they'd let us play with one less guy, just to see what happened? Because I think we would. And that's kind of a dickhead move, and that's more of a machismo thing. But,
Yeah.
I really believe in what I'm doing. I believe I'm helping people out, and I'm okay with people not agreeing with it. And I'm okay, But the Dr. Ken story, I'll never forget that because I don't train like Dr. Ken trains, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and he's such a wealth of knowledge. If you actually sit down and talk, not just about sets and reps, because who cares about that shit? His knowledge of the days of yore was just fascinating stuff. Telling me all about Lyle Alzado. He's like, no one believes he died of fucking cancer. Steroids did not cause his. It was just very funny. He's like, oh, come on. People still believe that bullshit? It was just very funny. Yeah, I think the more that you are comfortable with yourself, the more you're able to be comfortable with criticism. And I can tell you right now, especially it's probably not so much me, but more so with Dave. How much criticism did you and Louie receive? And you get upset because you wanted validation, but maybe part of you like, well, this is kind of new. And then after a while, you're like, I got an army full of dudes who are awesome. You know what? You can say whatever you want. I
got way more upset about it than Louie because Louie was never online, and Louie's answer was always, well, who is he and what's he squat?
Yeah. He's got the Ken Leistner answer.
Yeah, it's like, what's he squat? Where it was a little bit different for me because I had to learn how to control that, and it's, I don't want people to think that, all we're doing is giving advice. People are going to have a hard time with criticism for a while until you learn how to self-manage it. You can fake it, but it's still going to bother you.
Yes.
But at a certain point in time, you're just going to realize it's not worth it because it's stealing from the rest of your life.
Well, yeah. And, I think I read something Bruce Lee talked about. He goes, the greatest lesson you can learn is the self-control. Just sit back and take it in. Just look at it, observe. And, I don't agree with some of the stuff that some of the greatest minds. I'm like, I just don't see that. But, who am I to argue with their success? So, I don't. Dude, on my deathbed, I'm not going to give a shit what Boyd Epley or Louis Simmons thought of me.
No.
I just don't care. And there's two guys I hold in very high regard. So I don't know. What else we got? Anything else?
Yeah. What were your top supplementary / accessory movements or exercises that would help to build squat, bench, and deadlift?
Dave, what do you got, buddy? For the squat, we'll go squat first.
Yeah, do squat, then bench, and deadlift.
I assume for a power lifter, correct?
Yeah.
God, I hate questions like this because there's no, there's no background. I want to say, well, whatever your weak point is, but I don't know.
Let's just say
any multi-joint movement. So if it's the squat, it's going to be any multi-joint movement that's going to help build the squat. So
let's just say this. Don't worry about the main exercise, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
Worry about all the second and third shit that you did. So don't worry about the safety squat bar, any of that.
To me, it's still the posterior chain is huge. You have to build the hamstrings, the glutes, and the calves, as far as I'm concerned. So you're dealing with things like, glute ham raises, stiff leg deadlifts, RDLs, dumbbell deadlifts. Good mornings. Louis inverse curl. Reverse hyper. Anything that's going to pound the shit out of that, because you can use lower loads, to be able to bring up higher workloads, which is going to be easier to recover from. And it's also going to, for most people, it's going to be the stuff they're not going to want to do. Yes. So if you can prioritize that, then they're going to be able to always get it done. And this is assuming that they're also taking care of, well, the lower back should be in there as well, but they're also taking care of, abdominal wall. And I hate to say core, but just the ability to absorb force, to be able to brace and absorb force. The bench press, it's triceps, and the older I get and the more people I see get older with me, the shoulders get fucking destroyed on everybody. So it goes back to something Buddy Morris told me fucking 30 years ago, and I didn't listen. And everybody else do the least amount of shoulder work you can possibly do to get the greatest result, because you will pay for it in the end. And when I look at the older lifters today, what can they not do? They can't chin, they can't dip, they can't do overhead presses. So just by bro logic, I kind of take those out of there. But the triceps are definitely going to be what's going to drive a bench press, assuming that the technique is locked in, the lats are tight, everything. You have the ability to drive the bar. If you're just laying like a flat fucking marshmallow, it doesn't matter how strong your arms are. The deadlift is going to kind of correlate with the squat, where if those muscles are built, so will the deadlift.
There you go.
Any nutrition strategies you use or prefer when prepping for meat? Obviously, you're not competing anymore, but
No.
No, you don't cut weight unless you're setting a record. I just on a personal note, I am 44 years old now. It's probably wasn't until I was 42 that I actually have to watch what I eat a little bit. It's the first time in my life I have to be cognizant of what I eat. Usually I just I could eat whatever and nothing would happen. I mean, within reason. So I had right now, I'm not training for a meet now, so it doesn't really fucking matter. But everything I do training wise and diet wise and all that stuff is trying to maintain some sense of strength and my ability to do the things that I love with being healthy. That's it. So I really love squat, deadlift, bench, press, and stuff like that. So everything I do outside of that, diet-wise, conditioning-wise, assistance work-wise, is just I want to be able to do those things. And I have certain goals, but I don't want to squat 700 or anything like that. I'm just very happy to be able to do what I do. I wish, and by doing that, I'm able to do all the things I need to do, if that makes sense. So I have been following a little bit of the vertical diet by Stan Efferding, and I don't do it 100% because I still like to eat a little shit here and there. You want to hear a fucking awesome story, Dave? So 2 years ago, I go in for my annual checkup, and you know how that shit goes. And I remember getting blood, and I was like, God, I was so fucking pissed. I'm like, I'm going to hear another lecture every year, the same fucking lecture. I've been dead for 15 years, Dave. So I didn't think, and so then I get the call a day later. She's like, listen, your blood results are in. I'm like, all right, let me hear it. And she's like, everything looks perfect. I was like, what? And I'm like, listen, I'm going to schedule me for an appointment. I want to come in. I need to see this because I think you're looking at the wrong blood. And so she's like, all right. So I looked at all of it and we went over it. And she's like, your improvements are insane. My blood pressure was low. My cholesterol was sky high. Like everything was low. Triglycerides. And she's like, did you make any big changes? And I'm like, well, I walk all the time. I just started walking. I walked 3 miles every single day with a 25-pound weight vest, which is not that heavy. And I didn't walk hard. I just put some headphones in and did a stroll. So that's about 20 miles a week or something like that, right? Yeah, about 20 miles a week. And she's like, well, what about your diet? I'm like, oh, it's fucking worse than ever. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I make McDonald's twice a day. I just didn't care. And I was fatter than I've ever been. Not bigger. I was like, I just don't care anymore. My wife still has sex with me. I just don't care about anything. Right? I mean, it's like, yeah, I just don't care. I'm like, you know what? I'm still able to do some stuff. And everything went down. And it was like this weird realization. I'm like, God, and I felt great. I didn't look perfect. I was like, you know what? I could do anything I want. I sleep. I don't have sleep apnea. And it was like, I reached this perfect point of nirvana where I was just like, I can still bench this. I can still squat that. But I'm like, eh. But she's like, so you're dying, huh? I'm like, nah, it's been like two Big Macs a day. I was all ashamed.
Yeah.
And so every year, well, that might have been 3 years ago. I just walk everywhere, and then I let that take care of my. It's funny because people talk about conditioning stuff and all this, and I only do all that stuff to be healthy. I don't do it to lose fat because the only way to really lean out is to manipulate your diet within reason. If you're older, I should say. If you're younger, it doesn't. I don't know. I think it's funny when walking around made the biggest fucking difference in my life.
Well, it's a few things. It's circulation because I've been getting blood work done. Oh my God, probably every other month for 3 years. In some cases every month, because you can now use direct labs, so you can get it done.
Yeah.
Just straight out. And I'm not getting full panels every single time. There's just certain things that I'm watching, certain things that I'm trying to correct, certain things that will go off, certain things that won't. Hemoglobin's been a problem for me since I was 19. So it was a problem for my dad. It's pretty much always going to be a problem. So it's always high, but it's not like I'm going to stroke out high. The other things that would vary would be cholesterol here and there, which I've had. Well, vitamin D was an issue, but that I can bring that up with supplementation, and in the summertime, obviously going outside. But B is another one. So there are, phases of the year where I'll take injectable B12, I'll take B complex, I'll take D, just to be able to keep those things in line. DHEA would drop on me where I would bring that up. My testosterone is an issue. It's always been an issue, and I'm not saying, it needs to be 3,000, but an issue as far as if I'm not on hormone replacement, it is flat out 0. So trying to keep it between 500 and 800 is the goal. And then if I try to push over that, sometimes other variables get skewed because of that. But the biggest impact that I've had, more so than body weight, because like you said, I'm beyond giving a fuck what I really look like. I really don't care. I do want to get stronger. This is going to sound fucked up, but cutting down the number of training days I do per week helped my blood profile tremendously, because there's less cortisol.
Yep.
There's less stress.
Yeah.
So stress is a component of blood work that everybody wants to talk about. Sleep. Everybody wants to talk about nutrition. But when you look at the leading causes of death, stress is probably one of the top pre-indicators of those causes of death. When you can control that and you can bring that down from a physical standpoint and emotional standpoint, because training is stress, depending upon how you train. I train like an idiot, so obviously it's going to be stress. Bringing that down has had the biggest impact of anything. Now, if I start training hard, because I do have strength goals that I like to try to obtain, when I push those is when I got to start watching the blood work a little bit more again, because the stress will start to go up a little bit. But even with that, it's never been, except for 15 years ago when Serrano wanted to kill me, it's never been off the chart, some major issue. Just a lot of little ones that pop up that can be pre-indicators to things that could be bigger.
I have 2 very, very hard training days a week. Like, they suck. Like I do that because I want to challenge myself. I'm not necessarily pushing tons of weight, but the reps and the volume is pretty fucking insane. But I can't do that 3 or 4 days a week. That's where taking a stroll.
Yes.
That's how you balance that stuff out. And then,
see, we can roll that back then into the nutrition, because I think we're looking at nutrition in a way backwards than what other people are. People that are asking the questions are looking at nutrition on how can that aid their training. We're looking at the nutrition of what does our training require from the nutrition. Because if I wanted to train harder, I would have to make adjustments to my nutrition, but I don't want to. Yeah.
I'm not willing to, I remember someone asked me, like, would you ever do another meet? And my answer is no. And they asked why. I said, dude, I'm not willing to do the things that I know I need to do. And that's all it comes down to. I'm not willing to train like that. I'm not willing to sacrifice my body. Dude, it sucks waking up hurting all the time. And I already do to a degree, but nothing like it used to be. And I'm like, is it worth benching 400 pounds again so I can't sleep? No,
Yes.
fuck that.
No, it's nutrition does matter. I don't want to kind of go off there. Like when I was dieting and I was in calorie deficit, it matters tremendously. Most people's diet just flat out sucks. So when we're talking about a moderately poor diet, we're talking about fast food a couple times a week.
Yes.
You know, and the rest of it kind of being moderately normal human food. Some people are far so beyond that.
Yeah, I have. I have kind of one or two meals a week where you're like, dude, but everything else is pretty well within the normal range of everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if I have any problem with my nutrition, it's not eating.
Yeah,
And it's not intentional. It's not like, oh, I'm fasting. It's like, no, I just forgot to
Yeah.
eat for fucking
Yep.
12 hours.
that's when you hit Popeyes.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Popeyes. Oh, road truck stop Popeyes, dude. That's when you hit a new low. It's right there, right by the TSA or whatever it's
hitting
called.
a low, man, right there.
It's fucking good, dude.
That's
They
hitting
fucking
a
know
low.
me there. I go there and
Oh,
they,
my God.
what do you need? 4-piece?
I just need you to rotate your body, nothing like. There you go. We got one or two more if you guys want.
Yep. I got to pee pretty soon here.
Okay.
We should have toilets installed. The catheter.
Ooh, you ever have one of those put in when you're awake?
Not when I was awake. Fuck that, dude.
Fuck.
Nope.
On that topic.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
talk about catheters.
Why is programming more difficult for yourself than the people you train, or do you even agree with that?
Well, you're not very you're not very objective with yourself, right? And
Repeat the question too, please.
what's that?
Repeat the
Oh, why is programming for yourself generally more difficult than for other people? I think for me, I think it's easier for me to program for myself because I know what I feel like. I know what weights are supposed to feel like. I know what the goal is. When you talk to an athlete, a lot of times you're going to get a young athlete's not going to know what the fuck he's feeling, and then a very aggressive, awesome athlete is going to lie to you. Oh, I feel great. And you're like, dude, that was bad. But I think it's just hard to be honest with yourself. That's the hardest thing, I think. And it's hard to be. You talk about taking criticism. You generally don't criticize yourself, So if you have someone on the outside, and it doesn't even have to be someone do all your whole program. It's just someone looking. It's like, dude, you really look like this right now. You need to do something about this. I don't know. I also think it comes with, I've been training I didn't have a trainer or a coach. I had myself for all these years. So why would I want to? I've had all this experience training. Does that make sense? Like I trust myself more than I trust anyone else. And at this point in my life, training is more about my time in my weight room, enjoying the thing that I love the most. I don't want some asshole coming in there. I won't let anyone train with me, outside of like Matt Rhodes and Vincent and stuff like that. It's my time. So, but go ahead, Dave.
I think if you are a coach or a trainer or a lifter training other people, and you are not doing your own programming, then you have no business doing the programming for anybody else. Because the easiest person for you to be able to get feedback from is yourself. You know how you feel. You know how you feel when you wake up. You know how you feel when you go to sleep. You know how many hours of sleep that you get. You know what you're eating. You know how you're recovering. The only obstacle that's in your way is what Jim spoke about, your ability to be honest with yourself. And if you can't be honest with yourself, then there's no way you're going to be honest with the client.
Like here's the thing. Let's say like I program safety squat bar squats, and and you're like, and for a fact, dude, that it smokes my middle back. Like if you don't know that from your own programming, then how would you know what the kid's feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Or when you do deadlifts, the way we do trap bar deadlifts a little bit different, that it smokes our grip. Well, if I didn't count for that, then you wouldn't know. If I didn't do it myself, I guess that's a great way of putting it.
And the best way to learn is by doing.
Yes.
So, in hindsight, I do agree with Jim that, if you're a competitive lifter, you do want to have somebody on the outside looking in.
It doesn't have to be everything, though.
It doesn't have to be everything, but it has to be enough, because the higher up your ladder you get, the more brain cells are going to die, and the more you're going to want to ram your head through the fucking wall harder than what you really need. You need pulled back. The higher you get, the younger you are, you need more kicked in the ass.
Yeah.
The higher you are, you need pulled back. Pulling yourself back it's pretty hard, especially after you miss a lift that you should have made. I think Vincent told a story of missing a max effort lift like 14 times until he got it. That would have been a case where it would have been nice if he would have called somebody on the phone, or somebody would have said, look, dude, after 3, that's probably good. Yep. But overall, I think that, if that's the intention, if the intention is to never coach other people, then by all means, listen to somebody that knows what they're doing, because they will know better than you.
There you go.
We can end on this one.
All right.
Favorite memory of powerlifting? Dave has mentioned Steve Goggins' 1100 squat as one of his most memorable things that he's seen.
Memorable things we've seen, or just memory?
You can pick any route you want to go with it.
Performance-wise, there was Chuck's 1,000-pound squat that was done at the 2000 Dave's meet. That was the 2001 IPA Nationals. There was that Russian lifter, the 165-pound guy, Kucher, Alexander Kucher, who's the most impressive lifter I've ever seen in my entire life, ever. 165, squatted 900, benched close to 6, and pulled 8 at 165 with a loose fucking suit. That guy was a freak. So like that's like performance-wise, and obviously there's like the gym stuff. Honestly, my favorite memory is, when I was in Kentucky, I was training in a one-car garage. I was with 2 of my best friends, and it was like, we didn't have a pot to piss in between any of us. Just getting there for gas money was sometimes hard. And, we had some we didn't have none of us had kids. We all have kids now. None of us were married. We're all married now. All this shit was going down. It was just like, hey, and I met Jason through you, because you said he was went to a seminar, and I always knew Kevin. And to me, that was kind of the time of my life where I didn't have anything, and it was awesome. Now it's it's a different beast. So, yeah, dude, it's never the lifts are fine and everything, and I got to accomplish my goals, but I look back now, it's like, I'm happy I got to spend it with my friends. So
before Dave answers, you mentioned that your biggest goal was at 1,000-pound squat.
Oh yeah.
Did you have total goals, or was it?
Nah, I didn't care about a total. Who fuck? It's just powerlifting. Plus, you have to understand things things have changed a lot, and Dave and I we always believed like the squat was like that was it, and you benched, and like a 600-pound bench eluded Dave, but it's like it was kind of cool. And then deadlift, no one cares about the deadlift, and so as someone who always loved the squat, and then teaming up with Dave who loved the squat, it was like I could bench nothing and deadlift nothing. Like if you squatted 1,100, you didn't give a fuck. Right?
I would have loved to squat 1,100 though.
But I'm just saying,
squat's awesome.
That's the best lift.
Yeah.
The squat in terms of lifting is the only, and I don't really count the bench as a lift. So let's just say the deadlift. If you miss the deadlift, you just drop the bar. The squat, there's consequences. Whether you're doing a 1-rep max or a 20-rep max, there's fucking consequences. And I think that's why the squat is the biggest, testicle builder in training. And
nothing can be weak on the squat.
No. And I don't care, I use the safety squat bar, you use the spider bar, which is essentially the same thing. Like it'll start fucking folding you, man. And you start seeing things, man, it's like it's a builder. And I still deadlift and everything, but like I said, like you just, once you get tired, just, nothing works. The bar just falls down. You don't get that luxury with the squat.
There's a lot of lifts, it's like I mentioned Goggins, and I'll just kind of leave that as what it is. Andy Bolton pulling 1,000. I can go on and on and on. But there's also a lot of times that I've been to a meet that you see, some old dude, who's like 85 years old,
kicking ass,
pull 315 and take 12 minutes to stand up with it,
yep.
Which is just as memorable as some of the other stuff. when I think back and try to pinpoint, and I just spent this whole last time trying to think of what are my greatest memories of the sport. It's kind of fucked up because I was in it from 83 to 2005. And there's not one that just stands out as being, you know, that this was a great memory. It was just, the whole thing was, it was my life. It was my identity. You know, that would be like saying what was, you know, the best thing in your life, but yet, you know, I can point that out, you know, getting married, having kids, you know, but no lift was ever that important because there was always a bigger one to come. You know, that would like be saying, you know, getting married, this wife isn't important because the next one's going to be better than this, you know, so it's, you know, it all mattered, you know, it all mattered. It was all important because it was such a big part of my life that when I am on my deathbed and when I do die, I will think about powerlifting. I know I will. You know, I will think about my kids. I will think about my wife. I'll make sure that they're okay. But I will think about training and I will think about powerlifting. You know, I know I will. You know, I've been in the position. I know I will. It's not going to occupy every thought, you know, that goes in my head, but it was that much to me. It mattered that much to me that at this stage of my life, I only hope that I can find something else to be able to add to that, those thoughts that I'm going to have, you know, so it is more than just my wife, my kids, and
Doing squats.
and squatting.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys want to wrap it there then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I gotta piss. Holy cow.
Hey guys, if you're a strength athlete, coach, trainer, or practitioner, the Swiss Symposium in Columbus, Ohio at the Easton Town Center, time's running out. It's October 21st, and we have a $200 discount running right now. As I said, seats are starting to fill. So head over to elitefts.com, register today. So I want to call out the limited edition apparel. The link is in the description. As I've spoken about before, the limited edition apparel is apparel that I basically come up with. So some of the designs suck, some of them not so much. It's a weird thing. The ones that I think are going to do really well usually don't. The ones that I think aren't going to do really well do really well. Either way, they're all limited runs, so it changes, you know, every single month. But all limited edition items are tri-blend material with, you know, the cut that everybody wants now that's a little bit tighter on their arms so they can show off how big their fucking arms are. The limited edition items directly support the podcast. So head over, pick up your shirt today. Could be a hoodie, could be shorts. We got these ball hugger shorts right now, which I would never wear, but I was told they were super popular. But you know what? They were wrong because they're still sitting there and I probably should discount them right now. Anyhow, if you want to see the discount on the ball hugger shorts, head over to the limited edition apparel, link in the description box.